Good morning and welcome to the start of a brand new day. Today is the 5th of March, 2024, just a day away from Ghana's 67th anniversary of independence anniversary. What's our development and growth trajectory pointing upward or downwards? Is this the Ghana we want? How can we make it better? These and many other questions plague my mind this morning as we're anticipating the 6th of March. But welcome to the start of the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi and I do this with Benjamin Akakbo. In today's edition of the show, of course, I'll serve you the news and then we'll get into the news review. Today, financial analyst Dr. Wisdom Kofi Dogbe will be our guest to review the news. And then we'll get into AM Sports where Muftau Nabila Abdullahi will present a segment and then we get into the big stories. Now, we know that the Finance Ministry is asking President Akufo-Addo to hold off on signing the anti-LGBTQ bill into law as it may cost the country greatly. Days after the bill was passed, the ministry has outlined the negative implications of the document on its expenditure, key government plans and projects. Now, these risks include a potential loss of $850 million in budgetary support from the World Bank this year alone. So we'll speak to the Dean of UCC School of Business, Professor John Gachi, on this as we explore the economic implications of turning the bill into law. Also on the show, transport fares are likely to go up. Yes, that's the news we heard last night. Transport Operators Union and Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana have jointly announced a 30% hike in transport fares, effective Thursday, March 7, just after we celebrate independence. Now, the ground say the increment is necessary due to government's failure to address their concerns adequately. We have more on this later on in the show. I'll be out with Citizens Microphone. So when you see me outside, come and talk to me and share your plights with me. Again, Parliament Appointments Committee today will formally begin vetting processes for the newly nominated ministers and deputies. President Akufo-Addo announced on Wednesday, February 14th, a reshuffle of appointees. Today, Andrew Ejapa-Mensah, Minister-designate for Tourism, Arts and Culture; Lydia Saira Malhassan, Minister-designate for Sanitation and Water Resources; and under three others will face the committee. We've got all this on our table for you today. And that would also bring you up to speed on Joy News Impact Makers Awards 2024. We started the process to get you awarded for your good deed. So we hear from the project's lead, MFA Intiamo Eli, and 2023 awardee for education, Yaira Poshia Club. All this later on in the show. And then hopefully we open the phone lines for you to join in the conversation. Welcome to the show. It's time now for the news. Please stay with me from now to 10 a.m. Is the AM News on the AM show. To begin with, former Oti Regional Minister Joshua Makubu says his removal from office could not be attributed to his inability to win this bid to become the parliamentary candidate for Nkwanta South. He indicates his campaign was suspended and the curious circumstances his party gave the clearance for the primaries to go ahead made him lose the duel. Joshua Makubu has been interacting with correspondent Peter Senu.
How do you respond that was one of the reasons that you couldn't secure a constituency for yourself as a regional minister, and that for which you have to be taken out of office?
If that interpretation is made, it's rather unfortunate. Let me tell you the genesis of my contest in Nkwanta. So when my nomination was made, the first meeting I had with my regional chairman, my regards to him, Honorable Evans Yao Dapa, a very useful and dynamic regional chairman. My first interaction with him was that, look, this appointment that has been given to you, it's been given to you by the president, but I see that there are a lot of things you can do for yourself and for the party. And one of them, key among them, is to be able to win the seats for the MPP in Nkwanta South. And I know you have that capability. I've worked with you as a regional secretary. I've taken my intelligence on the ground and whatsoever. The chairman, let's go through this. When I get to office, then that one will be determined. Peter, whilst I was in office, I had a lot of party faithful, some constituency executive, police station executive, some that are not even coming from that constituency calling on me. Say, look, Joshua, you have lived a very good life. You have helped a lot of people in the constituency, in the church. You have been doing well. Everybody is giving positive remarks about you. So we feel that, look, you are the savior of the MPP as far as Nkwanta South is concerned, and we definitely want you to come in and contest. Peter, you know the circumstances under which we held the primaries. When the Nkwanta issue had intensified, as a member, regional chairman of the Regional Security Council, you don't expect me, and my morals would not have allowed me to continue to talk to people about my primaries when lives were being lost, properties were being destroyed. I asked my campaign team members, look, stop whatever you do, whether on the social media platform or one-on-one conversation with the people. Let's save Nkwanta South first before we think of leading Nkwanta South. And that was exactly what I did. All of a sudden, when the party came out with a timetable, look, it was about a week after a curfew had been imposed on Nkwanta South. We expect me, as the chairman of the Regional Security Council, to get up and be meeting people during curfew hours or outside curfew hours. No, it wouldn't have worked. So losing the primaries in Nkwanta South was not because the people don't know my capability. They don't believe that I can win the seat for MPP. But one, the circumstances under which the election was conducted, my campaign had been suspended for several weeks. I was only thinking that, look, the party would have indicated, no, let's treat Nkwanta South as a different issue, especially when one of the contestants happened to be the regional minister and the chairman of the Regional Security Council and had a lot to do. So at that point, I chose the people of Nkwanta and not my political ambition. And I was not bothered whether I was losing the primaries or not. So if anybody anywhere, excuse me to say, think that my inability to become the parliamentary candidate for Nkwanta South was enough reasons for me to have been sacked. Excuse me, I was not the only regional minister who contested primaries. About 4 of us contested, 2 won, 2 of us lost.
Member of Parliament for Pusiga, Ladi Ayi Ayamba, is asking government to eliminate all remaining taxes on sanitary pads, though the 2024 budget by former Minister Ken Oforiatta introduced a zero VAT rate for locally manufactured pads and abolished import duties on raw materials for local production. Ladi Ayamba contends that the elevated prices are still a barrier for girls in rural areas. She was reacting to the President's State of the Nation's address.
Mr. Speaker, we are talking today about tax exemption on sanitary pads. We are not talking about tax reduction or what. They should just remove it completely. A girl of 10 years has to use sanitary pads, and you say you are removing taxes from local ones or those important. Whichever way you are doing it, no, we don't want the tax on it at all. We don't want the tax on it. These are girls. Most of them are not like those that you see in places that you think that they can afford money to buy. And coming just from a program, the tax officer who presented made us understand that even after all those taxes, you will be buying 1 box of sanitary pads, just a small pack of sanitary pads, the cheapest, 20 Ghana cedis. Where is that person at Zuarungu going to get that 20 cedis?
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali has cautioned contractors working on Phase 1 of the Gulf of Guinea Northern Region's Social Cohesion Project to be honest in their dealings. He says any contractor who poorly executes his project will not be contracted for the second phase of the project. Now, the Upper West region is currently benefiting from 127 sub-projects spanning across all 11 municipalities and districts. Rafiq Salam reports.
The first point of call for the Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, was the Babylon Gold Market, where road construction, a car park, and drainage system projects are underway to ease congestion on the main road. The projects are currently 86% complete. Next, the minister and his team visited a Kuali Basic School, where the classroom block was found to be in a deplorable state, posing a safety risk for the pupils and teachers. The school, established 2 decades ago, had not undergone any renovation. Municipal Chief Executive for Laura, Jacob Derry, initiated the construction of the 3-unit classroom block with ancillary facilities under the Gulf of Guinea Region Social Cohesion Project, Soco. The project, being executed by Kunifa Kennedy Construction Limited, is approximately 70% complete. Dr. Binsali cautioned contractors who poorly executed their projects in the first phase may result in denial of contracts for the second phase of the Soco projects.
That as we go round, is also a way of assessing the contractors. Those who do not perform during this phase should forget it. If we advertise the jobs for the second phase and there's any contractor that fails to perform in the first phase, definitely that contractor should count him or herself out, because we want credible contractors to execute these projects.
The minister and his team then headed to Laura and paid a courtesy call on the paramount chief of Laura, Napo Wele Capo III, who also doubles as the vice president of the National House of Chiefs, to brief him on the extent of work done so far on the Soco projects. Napo Wele Capo III commended the minister and his team and outlined some of the challenges his traditional area is facing.
There are certain projects which I name heritage projects for the government, Nana Adodankwa, in my traditional area, which for one reason or the other are being stalled. And I would like to draw his attention. At the Cabinet Festival, I mentioned a few of them. One of them is the Laura Senior High School Assembly Complex. I'm told that it's progressing. If the regional minister, I know this visit, you may not have time, but if you can have time to look at it and find out so that we can commission it at the appropriate time. We are also worried about the stalling of the TVET project. As we were coming in at Toma, you could see the project. Every time I'm coming to where I look my right hand side and see the project, I will see some few people there now. I'm sure even the watchman has moved from sight.
And his entourage later visited other projects in the Laura municipality, including the Eremon Danko Health Facility, which is about 90% complete, with only the electricity construction remaining executed by Azampex Limited. Dr. Binsali ended his day by inspecting ongoing Soco projects at neighboring Jiriba municipality. He inspected projects at Nambe community, where Awulna Engineering Service is constructing a delivery room, a 6-unit classroom block with ancillary facilities and sport improvement, and graveling of the St. Augustine's Barry Link feeder roads at Jiriba.
I am satisfied how the projects have been executed. The contractors have done a good job, and I am fascinated by the interest shown by the chiefs and people of these beneficiary communities. They come there to visit, they go monitor the activities of the contractors, and that is good. So I believe strongly that in the long run, these projects will impact positively on the lives of the beneficiary community.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam, Laura.
Upper West Regional Director of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, Engineer Antoinette Anna Agbado, says her outfit is grappling with illegal water connections, erratic water supply, and destruction of water infrastructure by some residents in the beneficiary communities. She says her office is setting up loss control teams laced with undercover investigators. Here's another report by Rafik Salam.
The 25th anniversary celebration of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, CWSA, was held on the theme 25 years of sustaining services, transforming rural and small town water service delivery towards national development. As part of programs lined up to mark the day, a street float was held at Nodoli, who drew tens of workers of the CWSA, their customers and pupils from basic schools to take part in the event. They sang and danced to loud music, blasting through speakers mounted on a clear truck. Our Power Regional Director of the CWSA, Engineer Antoinette Anna Agbado, in a welcome address, noted that the agency has made major capital investments in its quest to ensure the provision of safe and uninterrupted water supply in all of its operational communities in the region. This includes the drilling and mechanizing of source boreholes, extension of distribution networks, installation of a state-of-the-art package treatment plant to solve water quality issue, and provision of water hydrant to combat fire. Engineer Antoinette Ama then spoke of some projects undertaken by the agency in the region.
The Upper West region is privileged to have the reconstruction of the Tumu water system to meet the water needs of the good people of Tumu and its environs. The project, which is 50% solar and 50% grid, is expected to be completed in June 2024. It is currently 70% complete.
Despite the fee shock, the agency is challenged with the issue of illegal connection, erratic power supply, and destruction of water infrastructure, which they are bent on tackling.
The agency, in the aftermath of some of the illegal connection, has set up loss control team at the regional office to interrogate data from the water systems and hit the ground to undercover investigations to ensure that perpetrators of illegal connections are brought to book. The agency has also heavily invested in automatic voltage regulator AVR to deal with erratic power supply currently confronting us. The agency has installed the state-of-the-art AVR in the Hamile Hapa water system to mitigate the erratic power supply.
Nadoli Kaleo District Chief Executive Catherine Lonkono called for an improved relationship between the agency and municipal and district assemblies in order to improve the quality of service for the people.
It is my fervent hope that this anniversary will spur CWSA on to continue to effectively deliver services which will lead to sustainable SDG 6. I urge you all to come out with cost-effective and affordable ways of producing and supplying potable water and related sanitation services for our people.
Our Power Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali, in a speech read on his behalf by the Chief Director of the Upper Regional Coordinating Council, Peter M. Mala, commended the CWSA and its stakeholders for their commitment and tireless effort to ensuring that there's clean water and sanitation for all communities in the Upper West region.
The Upper West region can boast of having 85% of our communities covered by sanitation-related activities, while our water coverage is shot up to about 76%. Admittedly, we are not meeting our expectation in the sanitation delivery sector, especially the open defecation free, as we are still around 15%. But that notwithstanding, we will get there in due course.
Reporting for the news, Rafik Salam, Nadoli.
The Northern Patriot Research and Advocacy has disclosed that 285 out of the 571 Village One Dam project sites do not have water. Presenting the report to the Northern Development Authority, the Executive Director, NOPA, said the dams had all dried up from the month of November to March, making it difficult for the farmers to undertake the dry farm season for which these dams were built. Martina Bugri has the rest of the story.
The One Village, One Dam, a policy of the MPP government, was to help reduce poverty, increase agriculture and food security, reduce unemployment and rural migration in the 5 regions of the north. But after its implementation, what are the results? It is against this backdrop that the Northern Patriots in Research and Advocacy, an NGO, undertook an impact assessment of these dams. Presenting the findings to the NDA, the Executive Director of NOPRA, Bismarck Adongo, said the purpose for which the dams were created were not met.
Decided to embark on this project, to visit the communities, review policy documents, to see where have we reached with this policy in terms of the deliverables or the results. And when we go to the communities, based on the criteria we used, 1 was poverty level of the district, then 2 was the level of completion of the dam. So if the dam was not 100% complete, we will not visit there. And when we visited the dams across the 5 regions, the selected dams with 100% completion status, and those districts being the highest, having the highest poverty rates in the country, we realized that almost all the dams are dried up. And once the dams are dried up, there was no water for them to do dry season farming or dry season gardening to be able to contribute to the policy objective of improved or increased agricultural productivity and food security.
He added that their findings also show that advice from experts on the construction of the dams were not factored in.
We engage GIDA, we engage Ghana Irrigation Development Authority, because they are a state institution with the mandate of designing, developing and implementing irrigation infrastructure in this country. And we're questioning, where were they when there is overwhelming evidence that they have ever constructed dams that contain water for all year round farming? What went wrong that these things, One Village, One Dam, doesn't have water? And they were like, no, they gave their technical advice, but their technical advice was ignored.
The Deputy CEO of the NDA, Zakaria Idi, said the assessment shows about 350 dams have the potential to serve these communities if they are reconstructed well.
So out of this 560 per our assessment, at least we will be able to rate 360 of them, about 300 of the 350 thereabout, have potential to be able to fit them well to support the community.
Let's now go to the Volta region, where authorities at Ho Teaching Hospital are asking for support to construct a mother's unit for the neonatal intensive care unit. Head of Child Health Sub BMC of the Ho Teaching Hospital, Dr. Bright Richard Daniel, explains that mothers who had preterm babies on admission are forced to sleep on the floor. He appealed when Kokroko Charities donated a 3rd incubator to the NICU of the hospital.
The neonatal intensive care unit of the Ho Teaching Hospital admits about 300 premature babies annually. The NICU, with 11 incubators, serve as a referral center for smaller facilities in the catchment area. Unfortunately, no provision has been made for mothers, hence they find themselves sleeping in the hallways of the unit. They keep their belongings and practically do everything here on the floor, while taking care of their babies at the unit. Dr. Bright Richard Daniel is the head of the Child Health Sub BMC of the Ho Teaching Hospital.
Our mothers, the places they are sleeping are not good. Some of them, their babies are staying with us for 3 months, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, and all this comes with them hovering about or moving in and out from hospital. If you have a place for them, a place they can call a hostel, they can also attend to some basic things, it will be useful. and we hope that that would also add to the quality of care we are offering to them here. So it's a passionate appeal to corporate Ghana. We'll be very grateful if we all come on board and make this dream a reality.
In a related development, a social intervention organization, Soco Charities, donated an incubator and some items to the unit. Friends of Vilandro Palms in Ho and Teddy's Irish Pub raised $10,000 to procure the incubator, sanitary towels, sanitary tissues, overcoats, theater clocks, cot sheets, and 2 refrigerators. The founder of Soco Charities and host of Peace FM's Soco Morning Show, Kwame Sefakan, explained the donation aims at improving maternal and child health care.
And 2024, yeah, the incubator number 3, Abaha, and that makes our total donation of 55. And we're proud as Soco Charities to say, with this donation at the whole teaching hospital, this is incubator number 55, and that makes 11 incubators at the whole teaching hospital. We're proud of what we have done. We're happy that we are able to, through kind donations from companies, individuals, family, friends, are doing this project. So 55 down, 45 to go. Yes, 100. Yes, they made an appeal for the mothers who carry preterm children or who are mothers of preterm children. They want a dormitory for them. It is not part of our project, but we'll think about it.
Dr. Daniel said the items would contribute to improving survival rates at the unit.
The hand tissues come in very handy. Infection prevention is key in care of preterms, and it is one of those reasons why the incubator is going to be helpful, and then it is helping us reduce our mortality as well.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Ho.
Hosting a structured Arabic language quiz competition in Islamic schools at Old Tafo in the Ashanti region has left students excited for future opportunities, with winners celebrating their victory and others motivated to improve for the next year's event. Badria Islamic School emerged winners in an Arabic language quiz organized by the Islamic Education Unit of the Ghana Education Service, scoring 74 points. Mohammed Nuruddin has more.
The competition, the Old Tafo Municipal Directorate of Ghana Education Services Initiative, aims to improve students' proficiency in the Arabic language, thereby equipping them with valuable skills for future endeavors. By focusing on listening and speaking abilities, the quiz seeks to enhance students' competence in Arabic, recognizing its importance as a global language. Sheikh Dr. Abdurrahman Abdullahi Tanko, one of the key coordinators of the competition, explained that the quiz assessed students' comprehension and proficiency in various aspects of the Arabic language.
It's because the difference between writing and speaking. So there is a challenge, especially in the dictation. So we have set the questions just to identify the problem that the students are facing, so we will make the best solution for that. And then we have done that. And then we hope that the next coming Arabic quiz competition, we are expecting our colleagues, our competitors to perform better.
In addition to Sheikh Dr. Tanko's remarks, his colleague Sheikh Abdurazak Bawa Ransa commended the teachers from various schools for their dedication in preparing students for such a competitive event. He emphasized that the quiz, along with other initiatives, will be ongoing to ensure students remain proficient in the Arabic language both within and beyond the school curriculum.
We say kudos to the Arabic instructors or teachers who are doing their best in achieving the core competencies of the people. And in fact, this will not be the end. We will continue to organize in order to motivate the instructors and the learners so that they will be part and parcel of promoting the Arabic language and the Common Core program initiated by Ghana Education Service and government.
The Municipal Director of Education for Old Tafo, Betty Dra, underscored the significance of the quiz in light of the new curriculum, which now includes examinations in the Arabic language.
To boost the morale of the Islamic pupils, we thought it wise to organize this quiz so that the children will be more interested in it and take it serious, and more so also entice other non-Islamic students to also learn the language. Now, currently, it has become part of the BEC, and this year they are going to write either Ghanaian language, French or Arabic. So if all pupils are able to learn the language, then they can also choose it as one of their core subjects.
The manager for Ashanti Region Islamic Education Unit, Yusuf Mohammed, expressed enthusiasm for the competition.
I'm very impressed with this competition because once now Arabic has become examinable and you write it at the BEC, so we put on this quiz so that it will help them. So it's from the curriculum that we selected the questions and we were able to do it. So we're very impressed and the children were able to did very well.
5 rounds. Salafia had 71.5%. Maria had 67.5%. Maria had 74 points. Darufadin had 65 points.
Participants from the winning schools receive undisclosed cash prizes and other rewards as incentives for future competitions. All participating schools were presented with certificates as a token of appreciation from the organizers. A report by Mohamed Nuruddin.
Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin's reports there, bringing us to the end of the AM News on the AM Show. Time now for the conversations, the analysis and the engagement, starting with the news review up next. Please stay with us.
Welcome on the News Review segment right here on the AM Show. Time now for us to dive into the papers, but before we do so, helping us bring you this segment every weekday morning, we have Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And this morning is no different. They're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. And here's where you can locate them. In Accra, at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, there's Kumasi, Kronoma Bwehia behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman, Hanswa, and Esiama and Zama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review, we're joined by Dr. Wisdom Dogbe. He is a finance analyst or financial analyst. He joins the conversation from across the world. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Ben. Thank you for having me again.
Thanks for joining us. And I know the time difference, it's the very wee hours of the morning where you are, but here, well, like we say, daybreak, and we're here doing what we do best. But I'll give you some time to talk about something you're passionate about. A lot has happened over the last few days, over the week that we've interacted. The LGBTQI bill has been passed. It's before Mr. President. There's been talk about $10 trillion saved by the Attorney General. And he has, in fact, clarified that it's north of that, actually about 14 trillion Ghana cedis. And he's explained why. Some people, though, don't give credence to it. And there's the SONA generally. What would you like to talk about for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes before we get into the papers?
Yeah, Ben, again, thank you for having me. The last time we discussed the State of the Nation's address and what was to come, I remember that I mentioned that we are at a point where Ghanaians may not necessarily trust the words of the president because of many instances of this promise and fail conundrum. And so with everything that I'm hearing, it seems like indeed some sections of the Ghanaian population, they took the president's words with a pinch of salt. And I think that some of my predictions of how people will react to the SONA, I think we've seen folks truly react in these ways. The section of the Ghanaian population who believe that the policies of this administration have worsened the economic woes, these people reacted with frustration as expected. And as I said the last time, the people have long moved from the speech stage, right? They are at the point where they want to see some actions in terms of implementation of sound policies that translate into reducing their economic burdens. And I think the president's address did not alleviate the frustrations of these people who desperately need their government to work on their behalf. And I also think that the president has successfully tried to absolve Dr. Bawumia of his role in the current economic crisis in the nation. That was quite unfortunate, Ben. We all know that the ultimate decision rests with the president on issues of the country, right? But no president, unless he or she is a dictator, no president takes any decision without the express counsel of his advisors, including the vice president. Also, you can't say the buck stops with me, portraying that you are taking accountability for the economic challenges we are in, and at the same time reappointing the same ministers whose policies got us into this hole in the first place. You know, I think that accountability goes with action, right, to course correct. So I'll say it again. Let's focus on pursuing policies that will reduce the economic burden in the country and provide equal economic opportunities to all citizens of the nation.
All right. And that's a crucial issue you've actually mentioned. But let's get into the papers, and we'll have more reflections on these in the coming days. Yesterday, for example, a member of parliament was also talking about the sanitary pads situation. For the life of me, you cannot understand why all these taxes. And then the local component of things, local manufacturers and everything in between. VAT, I remember in the 90s when we started in 1993, 94, 95, thereabouts. And you know of the demonstrations that ensued. Kumi Preko, Sieme Preko, Vieme Preko. At which time, now President Akufo-Addo was at the forefront of some of these demonstrations. Of course, VAT across the world has been used for positive ends, but in addition to everything else that Ghana has to juggle right now, it's become a bit of a monster, an albatross round our necks. And now you have private transporters saying we're going to increase transport fares and everything in between. You ask yourself, with this entire crunch on the system, how are people even surviving? How are people surviving? Businesses are complaining. They are passing on costs to consumers. Consumers are complaining. Whatever it is, whether it's food, drink, utilities. And you see, this is where it gets a bit, it's like spitting into the face of someone you've already annoyed, right? Because recently I heard Dr. Gideon Boako complaining that a certain host on another morning show, what did the person get from over-criticizing them? Not me, some other host. And I found it, and you know, there were comments about, wait, but when that same person was criticizing the erstwhile administration, over-criticizing them, like you say, so to speak, you were happy about that, right? It's just a mess. But for me, one of my chief peeves with leadership, or misleadership as I call it, in this country, it doesn't even have to do with the fact that all these things are happening. The fact that our leaders don't even want to own it. If there's a positive, they own it. If there's a negative, oh, oh, it was just, it's someone else, or it was some mistakes. And I don't know how you can have a conscience and do that. But anyway, the Daily Graphic newspaper, LGBTQ plus bill passage. Ghana risks losing $3.8 billion. I found this so interesting from two angles. I find it comical that people are putting figures and saying, oh, once we go down this route, we're going to lose this kind of money. I don't know what thinking goes into this. But on the other end, we must face, like I said, let's not denigrate, let's not hate, let's ensure that everybody enjoys the same rights, is protected. We're all human. And I still have my issues with the custodial sentences in the bill. But beyond that, if this is what culturally we stand for and everything, what are you talking about, $3.8 billion? Does that, I mean, would you sell, like Esau in the Bible, your birthright for bean stew? You know, that kind of mentality, I don't know. But anyway, GT Bank earmarks package for SMEs. Gadangme Council launches educational fund. President speaks on LGBTQ plus bill, says institutions will determine human rights compliance, and special Independence Day supplement inside. On the back page, 2023 African Games. Minister explains $47.7 million operations budget. And then table tennis, Black Loopers crash out in singles. Now, let me start from there. The dream of Ghana's table tennis singles glory at the ongoing African Games came crashing yesterday as the Black Loopers were eliminated from the individual competition. With most of her teammates ousted from contention, Cynthia Kwabi stood as Ghana's only beacon of hope after winning her first round tie against Kenya's Sifa Nafula. However, she failed to scale past her second hurdle after losing in straight sets to Africa's top seed, Egyptian powerhouse Hannah Goda, in the round of 16 at the Accra International Conference Center. And I'm particularly passionate about ping pong. I used to play pretty actively at a high level way back. Sometimes I would train at the sports stadium, Accra Sports Stadium. So I am passionate about it. Unfortunately, with the likes of Nigeria, Egypt, even South Africa and the rest, they are much stronger than we are. There's also 2023 African Games. And the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, has confirmed that the government has spent $195 million on infrastructure for the 13th African Games, Accra 2023, out of which $145 million was invested in the construction of the Bortiman Sports Center, $34 million directed towards renovating the University of Ghana Stadium, and $16 million used for the refurbishment of the Games Village at Legon. Additionally, he revealed that the operational budget estimate of $47.7 million for the event covers a spectrum of activities necessary for its successful organization and is not restricted to expenditure during the competition from March 8 to 24. But after having said all of this, I remember the Gold Coast, Australia bit. I remember so many things that have happened. From what I've seen, I'll be blunt, our sports, that is one area that is one of the most corrupt places in Ghana. Manuesi. One of the most corrupt in Ghana, especially when it comes to male football and everything that happens in between. Your take?
And I think it's good news. If you think about it the other way, there's some good news there to have all of the stadia ready for the games. And such investments...
You should look at maintenance after it's done.
And I'll get there. If you think about the investment, right, it can have positive impacts on the economy in the long run. Of course, I believe that the construction of the stadium would have created a handful of jobs. Building a sporting stadium can provide a significant number of employment opportunities during a time when jobs are scarce.
Right.
The construction phase alone, I'm sure they created jobs for architects, engineers, and different construction workers. That's all good stuff. And material and other supplies were bought. So I believe that it stimulated some level of spending on these material supplies and services benefiting the local economy. And because the stadia, as I heard, were completed to make them ready for the African Games, I expect it to somewhat boost tourism and subsequent revenue generation. Now, the issue I see here, though, is that, as you know, Building facilities like stadium requires substantial investment. And in this current economic downturn in Ghana, where public funds are expected to be limited, I would like to learn more, right? If the cost of financing such projects didn't strain the already tight budget, taking away resources from other more pressing areas of the economy. We need to think about the opportunity cost here also. The funds allocated for building a sporting stadium, all of this could be used for other pressing needs, right? Such as education to improve the school feeding program, accommodation for students in the tertiary institutions, healthcare,
right,
or social welfare programs. I'm not saying that stadiums are not necessary, but I think that in an economic downturn like what we are seeing in Ghana, prioritizing government spending on essential services and programs, that actually, I believe that it has direct benefit to the people and community, and I think that that may be a more prudent approach.
Right.
You can argue that this is a good investment, and I will not dispute that, right? But what is the return on investment here? The success of a project like this, a sporting stadium in generating revenue and attracting visitors, is not always certain. You run the risk that the expected economic benefits may not necessarily crystallize as projected.
True.
Leaving the management of the project with significant financial burden and underutilized facilities. And I also hope that there will be proper control over ongoing costs of maintenance. I think you're going there earlier on, Ben. It's not just about the initial construction phase, but also maintenance and making sure it is leveraged quite well. That will be my consideration, and that will be my concern as well.
And speaking of projects, something else that comes to mind, it should have been inaugurated on the 6th of March, or there should have been planning. You know what I'm talking about, the National Cathedral. You know, this year, it should have been up and running. Another project that Ghana has invested large sums of money in, and now you don't even know whether the project is on or not. So, but like I say, we are with day inside. Sometimes when you hold one administration to the sword, people feel, but when you are holding the other administration, by and large, we must hold every administration to the sword, put them to the sword, hold them. I think it was, I've forgotten which Roman leader, whether Marcus Aurelius or Caesar, but there's this quote I read a long time ago. It said he was given the staff of office, which was a sword, and he said to the person giving him the sword, if I do well, I shall wield this sword, but if I don't, use the same sword on me. It shows some respect for the office and what you're going to do, because you're there to serve, and if you fail, you must move aside, not necessarily through being slain, but it's just so frustrating. But let's get into some other stories and wrap from here. President speaks on LGBTQ plus bill, says institutions will determine human rights compliance. So President Akufo-Addo has assured the international community that Ghana will not turn her back on her enviable, long-standing record on human rights observance and attachment to the rule of law. Quoting him, he says, "I want to assure you that no such backsliding will be contemplated or occasioned. I think it will serve little purpose to go at this stage into the details of the origin of this proposed law, which is yet to reach my desk," he added. President Akufo-Addo said this in reaction to last week's bipartisan passage of the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill by Parliament on a private member's motion. He gave an assurance that, quote, "the operation of the institutions of the Ghanaian state would determine the future trajectory of the rule of law and human rights compliance in our country." Now, on the Supreme Court, the president said he had learned that a challenge had been mounted at the Supreme Court by a concerned citizen to the constitutionality of the proposed legislation. Quote, "In the circumstances, it would be as well for all of us to hold our hands and await the decision of the court before any action is taken," he added. He assured the international community that the operation of the institutions of the Ghanaian state would determine the future trajectory of the rule of law and human rights compliance in our country. And let me just add to this that if the president fails to give his assent, as has been discussed, Parliament has a way out. They can bring it back to Parliament, and if 2/3 are in support, they still go ahead and make it into law. So For a student of the law, it's interesting. We want to see how things will go. Will he sign it? Will he not sign it? If he doesn't sign it, will Parliament get 2/3? What will the Supreme Court say? Interesting times. That story in there. Let me do this other story and then we can get a move on. So there are two stories related to the church. There's a news feature, Peaceful, Free, Fair, Transparent 2024 Election. Role of the Church is by Michael Ansa. And of course, the church and other groupings are also being called in to step up, because should anything go askew, everyone would be affected, including the church. But then on page 19, another church story. Church should partner state to address youth unemployment. John Mahama says so. And former President John Dramani Mahama has urged the church to support the state to create employment opportunities for youth. He bemoaned the increasing youth employment rates in the country and said churches could intervene by creating job opportunities to contain the rising levels of unemployment. On the international front, this is a sad story I've been following on the BBC. Gangs threaten Haiti takeover after mass jailbreak, and the government of Haiti declared a 72-hour state of emergency on Sunday after armed gangs stormed a major Port-au-Prince prison. At least 12 people were killed and about 3,700 inmates escaped in the jailbreak. Gang leaders say they want to force the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry, who had traveled abroad. The groups aiming to oust him control around 80% of Port-au-Prince. Now, gang violence has plagued Haiti for years, and there's also Sudan demands full reinstatement to AU. Any quick reflections, and then we say goodbye to the Daily Graphic newspaper.
So, Ben, I think on the issue of the church partnering with the state to solve unemployment, I think this is long overdue, right? I think that unemployment has been an issue that we had to focus on for a very long time, and we haven't had a lot of leadership on that. I know some young folks very close to me who graduated with their first degrees, and some with even master's degrees, and couldn't find well-paying jobs in Ghana. So they were forced to leave Ghana to seek greener pastures elsewhere. What makes it even more saddening is the seemingly lack of urgency on the side of our leaders to resolve this, and also lack of full commitment to enact or implement cutting-edge policies that will help us as a nation to create jobs for the people and provide the citizens with a fair shot to economic freedom. And I think that youth unemployment in Ghana should be top agenda, right? It should be top agenda item for our leaders, both in the private and public sectors. So I agree with President Mahama that the private sector, in this case, the church, should partner, with the state to find a solution to unemployment, especially among the youth. So here's my thought. I think we need to start by supporting and encouraging entrepreneurship through the provision of, say, mentorship programs, even through the church, right, to mentor the youth so that they will think differently about employment opportunities and embrace the idea of becoming an employer themselves, right, and not wait for the government or other companies to employ them. The government could facilitate the provision of startup capital, work with the private sector, including the churches and other religious groups, to provide business development support. Recently, I think the big four in the country united to support SMEs in terms of funding and business development. This is how you do it, and it's very commendable. I think the government can partner with the private sector, to create an enabling business environment for small and medium-sized enterprises. And this will end up stimulating in economic growth and also create more jobs for the people. And I also think that we should focus on further diversifying the economy. That is how we reduce, if you think about it, that's how you reduce over-dependence on few sectors in the economy. We need our leaders to implement policies that will foster growth of industries such as agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism. With diversification, you can create more employment opportunities and also mitigate vulnerabilities or shocks in some sectors of the economy. As we think about this diversification, Ben, I think it's important to mention that we need to place more emphasis on the agri sector, which has tremendous job creating potential for the youth. agriculture is key, right? It's a key sector in Ghana's economy. We need to educate the youth, especially about the importance of agriculture and the opportunities it can create for economic success for them. Then the government and the churches should prioritize supporting folks who can participate in this sector and helping them with funding and the right infrastructure to ensure success. This will not only provide jobs, but it will go a long way in guaranteeing food security in the country and also strengthen our export position. And then we need to invest in agribusiness. If you think about the value chain around all of this agriculture stuff, including helping these young farmers with processing and distribution. There are so many things we can do to solve this for the youth, right? Especially when you think about the unemployment menace in the country. We should invest in necessary skill development to align training or education with realities in the job market as well.
Thanks for those thoughts. Staying a little bit further on the international front, G7 still working on ways to tap frozen Russian assets. Yellen says so, and that has to do with U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and they're looking about $300 billion in frozen Russian sovereign assets. You know, Russia, by and large, has suffered a barrage of sanctions, many of them just tweaking of earlier sanctions. But as has been said, it will take time. It may even take years before some of the effects of these sanctions will be felt. But now they are hoping to tap into Russian assets in this regard. Kamala Harris calls for immediate truce in Gaza, and the United States Vice President has called for an immediate pause in fighting in Gaza while issuing a rare rebuke of Israel. Given the immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire for at least the next 6 weeks, which is what is currently on the table, Harris said on Sunday. But you know that Egypt, I believe it's Egypt's Qatar, or is it Qatar and some other country, Israel is not part of it because it insists that if you're going to do this, give us a list of our hostages, those who are alive, and what is happening with them. And Hamas also says no. I believe Israel has its high-handedness and some areas where it is not bending, making itself malleable to, I don't want to use the word reason, but to pushing some things forward. But Hamas's stance also irks me because you conducted this assault, you killed people, including children. There are claims from the Israeli end that some people were raped. You took hostages and all of that. You've brought this on your people, and you still don't want to bend. For example, you see the human suffering in that area must end. But to some extent, you must understand the Israelis, and to some extent, you must also understand the Palestinians. You know, so it's really sad, this humanitarian crisis. And for me, from where I sit, while the Israeli Defense Forces may have their own issues, while Israel itself may have its own issues, I feel Hamas is not helping anything at all. And if there were any real group to blame, I'll blame them as well. I don't know what your take is on any of this, and we can move on.
And to be honest, we all just want the killing and the hardship to come to an end quickly.
It's so sad.
So that both Israel and the Palestinian people can start rebuilding in a healthy way, right? It's definitely a step in the right direction as the United States has started airdropping humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza who are suffering untold hardship that was forced upon them, as he said, by Hamas. I also read that a United Nations team found convincing evidence that the hostages in Gaza have been raped, and they continue to rape them by their captors. This is a barbaric act, as severe as the suffering that we hear in Gaza reported by some as genocide. Then, by international laws, it is a crime to use rape as a weapon of war. It is horrific practice and a grave desecration of human rights and international humanitarian law to use rape as a tactic during an armed conflict. I expect international laws to take its course in this matter, right? We have the Rome Statute of the ICC and also the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women.
There are the Geneva Conventions, among others.
Yeah, all of this can be used to prosecute the perpetrators. And I hope there will be comprehensive support services for the victims when the war ends. Both sides need to play by the rules of war. It's just as simple as that. They should make good faith effort towards ending the war and rebuild. There has to be some ceasefire at some point to stop the carnage, Ben.
And that's what we all want to stop. You see, sometimes, depending on where you sit or where you stand, you may get passionate from this or that angle. Historically, we could go into it and talk about all the dynamics, but two wrongs don't make a right. In the end, we do know that if Hamas hadn't done what it had done, though, we probably wouldn't be where we are. But like you said, look at recently there was a food truck, aid truck, bringing in food, and people were so eager to get the food, some of them got crushed by the vehicles. Soldiers, in the end, some felt threatened or something of the sort, and a few people got gunned down. Or some people, I shouldn't say a few, because in the end, the numbers were pretty huge. Though it was said to be a lot of those from satellite footage, a lot of those who died maybe getting run over by vehicles. That touched me, because I remember being on a ship from Monrovia, Liberia, coming back to Ghana. Okay, when the first Liberian Civil War broke out, and we had been in there for a long time. And, I remember going to this, I think it was, I don't know whether it was Kwenu back then who was in charge and all of that, going with little boy, going with my shirt to get Gary. Okay, and there were queues, elderly people were shoving me around. My mom was looking for me. I mean, when you think of those, I understand what this means. I understand what this means, and the suffering is bad. But like you also said, you have hostages, and you are raping them repeatedly. And you expect, I don't know.
It's unbelievable, Ben. Your story is also touching. But Ben, if I may, I want to respond also briefly to the story on Ukraine and Russian billion
assets. Right.
In assets. Ukraine needs all the help to have a fair shot at fighting Russia to protect their territorial sovereignty.
Right.
And it makes sense for the G7 to try and tap into Russia's frozen $300 billion in assets. Now that the U.S. Congress is surprisingly now prioritizing aid to Ukraine. Look, Ben, this conflict is not just a recent affair, right? It really began in 2014 when Russia started by annexing the Crimea, a subsequent pro-Russian uprising in eastern Ukraine.
Right.
The human toll is just enormous in terms of death and displacement of people. So yes, it is the right thing to do to step up, pressure on the parties involved to end the war. I understand that there are other international efforts to resolve the conflict with diplomatic negotiations and peace talks taking place. However, finding a solution that works for Russia's ambitions in the region and Ukraine's territorial defense goals, that is proving challenging so far. It is important to know that the reasons behind Russia's invasion are complex, right? I believe they include historical and geopolitical factors. Then also Ukraine's desire for closer integration with the EU and NATO. This has really angered Russia even more as Russia sees NATO as an existential threat. That said, I see reasoning behind the international community, including the United States, the EU, and other countries, expressing support for Ukraine. However, until both parties can come to the negotiation table, if that is something that will ever happen, I think that it's important that nations who cherish democracy, they continue to support Ukraine as they fight this aggression to reclaim their lands and sovereignty and restore peace to the people. I listened to a world leader speak on this issue, and she said that autocracy should not be allowed to become stronger than democracy.
What do you think of that, though?
I said that because I strongly believe in that, right? The world does better if there is a democracy, if there are people who actually are able to vote, are able to speak out for themselves, are able to defend their own land, right? I definitely stand...
Even if it is sham voting, like we see in some parts of Africa and other parts of the world. Even if it's just a sham, it's just a show. You all know what the result will be, and it's not going to be free and fair.
Then that's not voting in the first place. That is corruption right there. That is not free and fair elections, and that doesn't even count. Where democracy works very well is where the people have the ability to speak for themselves through the ballot box, elect their leaders according to their own terms, and the leaders don't come in and expect to stay beyond their term limits, as we're seeing in Senegal and causing a lot of issues on the continent.
Okay, well, Daily Guide newspaper, Freddie Blay protests mischievous multimedia video, that story there. Ayoko Boche gets CARICOM support. Be competent, independent CJ to judges. Anti-gay bill, Ghana to lose $3.8 billion World Bank funds. And Nana awaits Supreme Court decision to assent to bill. I've already read that bit, but let me just get to it. So, page 3, that's the story. So where does the story even start? Yeah. Ghana is likely to use $3.8 billion in World Bank financing over the next 5 to 6 years if the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, popularly known as the Anti-Gay Bill, becomes a law, the Ministry of Finance has warned. It has therefore appealed to President Akufo-Addo not to assent to the bill passed by Parliament on February 28, 2024. And some have taken on the Finance Ministry saying, where is your locus in all of this? And literally, some have said, how dare you? But on the other end, some would say, look, if there are consequences, we'll have to bear them. We'll have to deal with them. So I don't know what your take is on that. But,
yeah.
Okay, you go ahead.
But I think that the issue of gay rights, right, has been such a sensitive and complicated topic across Africa, including Ghana. And I can appreciate the argument from both sides of the aisle for and against. I have no doubt that due to the widespread outrage, especially from our international partners, that the president will not assent to the bill until all legal processes or the challenges in the courts, all of these are exhausted. Now, here's my personal conviction about gay rights, and I'm about to make the news. I'm a straight man, right? I'm a straight man married to a female wife. Some of your viewers may be wondering why I said female wife. It is because I live in a part of the world where your wife could be a male or female. So my preference is to be married to a woman, as I saw from my mom and from my dad.
Right.
Growing up, that is what I knew, right? That's what some of us got to see in Ghana before we even left. That said, I came to appreciate that all citizens, they have rights. The right to life and freedom and the pursuit of happiness. You know, as a community and business leader myself, then I will hire a gay man or a gay woman, provided that they are the best qualified for the job.
Right.
What that gay person does in the secret of their bedrooms is none of my business. On the other hand, I'm also an ordained pastor. I preach the gospel of Jesus Christ unapologetically and without fear. So when I'm making a hiring decision for any company where I'm employed, I recognize that that is not my church. Neither is that my congregation, nor my family. That is work. And I have certain principles, right, that the company, wherever I find myself working, they have principles that I can obey without giving up my own religious beliefs. So I respect their rights, just as I respect my rights as a traditional family man, you know, who strongly believes in Ghanaian culture.
Okay, so pardon my interjection. We have about a minute and a half, but let me add this. So there are those here who would also say, that is fine. You can do whatever you want, but this whole bit about trying to rope in others and even impact our children or adopt children, that's where you cross the line. What's your take on that? Very quickly, and then we have to go.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid concern, right? For as long as their activities are not infringing on your rights, they're not forcing your kids into practicing homosexuality, I think that we should be able to cohabit, right? It doesn't mean that that is part of our culture. It should definitely, that's not the meaning of that. It simply means that we can understand different sides of the aisle. We can be tolerant. That's how I see it. It doesn't mean that I have to practice what other people do. I have my own beliefs. When I go to church, there are things that I would say that are very different from things that are out there that people believe in, that people practice. It doesn't mean I have to do that.
Right.
You know?
Anyway, mining pit kills 4 women. That's another story in the Daily Guide. Economy Times, Ghana's economy on a slippery path, cut down on expenditure. Seth Tekpe says so. He was here with us yesterday as well. And Ghana's tax system needs reform. A former minister, finance minister, is advocating that. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining the conversation today. Thank you for waking up so early in your time zone to be able to join us. And we wish you the best of the day. That is Dr. Wisdom Dogbe, and he is a financial analyst. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic bringing us to the end of the news review. They're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening. If you're a woman, fertility screening, all for free. Reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma Boyham behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takra Dianaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hansa, and Esiama and Sama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Let's stay for sports. Up next.
In the quiet town of Besianse in the Adjoso traditional area, a deep history of rich culture and the ancient memorial is gradually getting buried in modernity. An aspect of the rich Ashanti culture which struck the early European visitors to this area was the distinct building style. All were impressed with the construction, with the design, the cleanliness and the comfort of these traditional courtyard houses, which they regarded as being well adapted to the particular climate and the particular condition of life in this area. We are here at the Besianse Shrine House in the Adjoso traditional area. The unique features of these buildings are embedded in their style, method of construction, traditional motifs, and rich colorization of walls and practice of traditional religion. Ironically, the only 10 buildings that have survived till today are shrine houses of some powerful deities who have interceded and protected the Asantis. This site at Besianse in the Adjoso traditional area houses the Yautano deity, which is profoundly revered in the Asante worship, a depiction of the traditional character of vernacular Asante's architecture. Francis Kwayiri is the Ashanti regional head of Ghana Museums and Monuments Board.
For Ashanti culture, drumming and dancing is a crucial aspect of Ashanti culture. And so this place was dedicated, to the singers, and then the space over there was dedicated for the cooks, that is the kitchen, and then the drummers also have their space over there. And so this central courtyard here was used for performance by the priest, who at the time was one of the most important people in Ashanti culture.
The Asante buildings were built in the wattle and daubed technology. First, a framework made of vertical timber posts linked together by horizontal members constructed around a mat platform. This is then plastered from both sides with clay. The resting walls have thickness of about 25 centimeters. Looking at these complex designs, it is evident that a lot of patience and skills are required. The architecture often consists of 4 triangular buildings and steep thatched roofs enclosing a courtyard. The high steeped pitched roof at angle of 60 degrees allows for very good efficiency and durability of the thatched roof and also ensures adequate protection of the entire building. However, in the last century, corrugated iron has replaced thatch, cement replaced the mud plaster and corp or massive mud walls, while mud bricks masonry have replaced the wattle and daubed technology. Gerard Chiom, expert heritage management of the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board, explains the environmental and climate significance of the building.
This type of architecture is adapted to this climate. First of all, this is something we've forgotten. You can spend the day here and you will never sit under the sun. right? So there is a careful observation of the sun, the movement of the sun, and so on. So this architecture is very well adapted to the tropical environment in Africa. Look at the roof, the slope of the roof, very well adapted to the rain, all right? Look at, as I said, the space and the sitting space, always in the shadow, always protected from the sun. So this architecture is valuable, not only because it's a relic of the past, and we definitively are interested in knowing more about the past, but also because it has probably something to bring to us and to the future.
The outlines of the designs on the walls are formed from edges of thin stripes of cane and then carefully covered with clay. The elaborate ornamentation was used for palaces, homes of worthy citizens, and shrine houses.
The kind of building that was adopted for these kind of people, especially the kings, the queens, the priests, were very unique and adorned with different decorations and adinkra symbols. And each of them have its own meaning, and they sort of speak to certain cultural and social norms within the society. They are the stories and the narratives behind the tangible things that you see. The meaning of some of these designs and symbols are essential part of the intangible cultural heritage. Okay, so each of these symbols have its own meaning, and in order to be able to interpret heritage, you need a documentation of these works.
Despite technological advancements in the architectural landscape, limited research and discoveries have been made into indigenous building qualities that have stood against time. The 10 old Asante traditional architectural style buildings have been acquired for preservation as national monuments since 1964 by the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board and were listed as World Heritage Property by the UNESCO's World Heritage Committee in 1980. French ambassador to Ghana, Jose Amand Anyamboso, believes modern architecture can reconcile with the qualities old architectural elements bring to bear.
There are some methods, some techniques that were not only valuable but are still very, very efficient. So definitely, I think that the techniques, especially what I saw, the explanation of Francis, could inspire. I'm sure that they know about, but they can be very inspiring by coming here to see again, for some of them to learn about these traditional buildings techniques, and that will be definitely very, very interesting to mix, because the modern world also need to learn a lot from the African continent.
Reporting for Joy News, my name is Clinton.
Welcome back on the AM show. Let's start off by talking about transport fares, which are likely to go up. Now, there's been a threat, in recent weeks, we've had that conversation going, of about a hike of about 30%. And then we heard that there was going to be that increment. And now we're hearing from the concerned drivers who are saying that no, they have not come to a decision on that matter. Now, we're going to be engaging those who have actually been in these meetings, the Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana, who have jointly announced a 30% hike in transport fares. Joining us for a conversation on that, we have David Agboado, Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana, and then Samuel Amwa, he's Deputy PRO with the GPRTU. Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning, brother.
Who is speaking? Is that David?
Yes, that's David speaking.
Yeah, and this is Samuel.
Samuel, all right, good to have you join the conversation. Let's get this straight. Is there going to be a price increment in transport fares or not?
For now, no.
Who is speaking? David?
Yes.
All right, so let's start with you, David. Is there going to be a price increment? You say no.
Yes.
For now, no. What does for now, no mean, technically?
We will increase the transport fare, but not as our 3 regional executives did yesterday, but announcing that on the 7th there will be increments in transport fare. You see, even in animal kingdom, they advance in rank. The 3 regional officers, we know their regions are very powerful in terms of transport circles. They are very powerful. Greater Accra, Central, and Ashanti regions are very powerful and very, very needed in this transport operation. But they shouldn't take the number or the size of their circle to do whatever they did yesterday. As I speak with you, we have sanctioned them, we have suspended them for 3 months. Because plans is...
You've suspended them for 3 months?
Yes.
Is it the officers you've suspended?
We suspended the 3 regional officers, namely Greater Accra Regional Chairman, Central Regional Chairman, and then Ashanti Regional Chairman. We suspended them because we are all planning. As I speak with you, the Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators have met only Thursday to discuss this. We didn't come out with any solid or concrete day that this is the day we are coming out with our transport fare. And these 3 regional officers took it upon themselves and announced that on the 7th they will increase transport fare. On what capacity will they do that?
So the issue you've taken with them is the fact that you hadn't concluded yet on a date and they sprang a surprise on you. That's what you're saying?
Exactly so.
And by the suspension, when you say we've suspended them, who are we?
The national executive suspending the regional executive.
I see. And is this all of you together? I mean, for example, is it just restricted to the Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana?
Yes, it's only Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana because it's our members that did that thing. It is not about the coalition because they are not part of the coalition. The coalition is the national executive that are part of the coalition.
All right, it's good you make that point. I had to clarify that. But let me come to, hold for me, David. Let me come to Samuel Amwa, Deputy PRO, GPRTU. Did you see this coming? And is it something that could have been avoided? Hello, Mr. Amwa. Can you hear me? Samuel Amwa, can you hear me?
Can you also hear me?
Well, I was struggling to hear you. I can hear you now. I was asking, did you see this coming, this proposal made by the officers, and could it have been avoided?
Yes, we actually, it came by a surprise, because we've had some series of meetings, and if I recall, on the 23rd of January 2024, we had a meeting with the Transport Ministry, together with the Transport Minister and then the former Finance Minister, Operator. And then the agreement was that our proposed 20% that we had wanted to come out, if you recall, GPRTU came out with 20% increment. That was supposed to, take effect from 21st January 2024. But then the Transport Ministry came in. That was when we were called to the offices of the Transport Ministry to have a negotiation. And after that, there was an agreement that we should put everything on paper and we use the normal procedure that we used to use before we come out with an increment. So that made us, suspended our increment, and then we decided to put everything on paper. After that, we submitted our report to the Transport Ministry, waiting for them to call us for our proposed 20% increment. So we were still waiting. Even last week, we had a brief meeting, and we were even talking about it, that it's long overdue, and we are still waiting for them. And this week, if the whole of this week we don't hear anything from them, probably by next week we'll approach them again. So this really that came in as a surprise because before something of that sort will come in, the National Executive, as Mr. Aguado said, we have a coalition. We'll meet and discuss before we come out. So when the release came out, we're a bit surprised. We'll find out before we got to know that it wasn't from the National Executive of the Concerned Brothers Association, but it was, I think, about 3 of the regional executives who came out with the release.
All right, Mr. Amoah, just hold for me, Mr. Aguado as well. Let's head now. Let's speak to those in the thick of things. The drivers at the Obra Sport right here in Accra. Sweetie Abochi is in their midst interacting with them. Sweetie, over to you. Let's hear from these drivers.
Increasing transport fares by 30%. Just last month, we know that the GRPTU said they were also increasing transport fares, but the ministry wrote to them and said that no agreement of such sort had been had. This morning, we are here to speak with the drivers to understand exactly what's accounting for these hikes in transport fares. And then later on, we speak to commuters to understand the real situation on ground. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. To begin with, why are you increasing transport fares at this time of the year? After the ministry wrote to you just last month, January, saying that you should not increase the fares because no such agreement had been had.
Mommy, I'm saying it's true, but say Amanika say my aunt too fair anymore. You drivers want to see a break because see as a increase for now affect oil, any tax, any spare parts. Abasa affect any drivers no so. Ejumani ayan su yenyashi. Was what to move first one now 2 mono. I see a increase a lot of fair no. What's a mayan ye demonstrations almost a month I'm a but you see what's I increase for on the beam. That's a increase fair na Casamia, yes, another driver say, I won't tell you because 4 now 2 mono, and no moon I better oil free mo, and normally a bay so side a free mo, and then a better mate can't so I can't say a day, ye beddy. And so increase 4 anyhow be an yes, and the answer drivers and should be 9 day, 9 diamay, and the best rap mine, Sabia or 2 4 no matter could do. On Tiasia, near so intimate increase fair no, send a bay in a home bed day, a buying her as our drivers, I won't cheer too much. Mommy.
Well, he's saying that is the increment in fuel prices and other things that's accounting for it. So if the government is saying, or the ministry is saying that they shouldn't increase their transport fares, then they are handicapped because they will not break even. But the question, my next question would be, the government is saying, hold on. Have you had any discussion prior to this recent 30% increments that you are threatening to implement? Have you had any discussion? Money are buying in common, mama agree, say, okay, this is the way to go.
Yetiani sir, GPR to form penny for no. Omne ministry ni kwatranse. Say omba to lolo fe nimu. Actually, yeti yani say, yesi ye hold on. Wamon now antumu biom. Sisi aso enoma boy den. Didi kan spare pass boy den. Ka una for omo blepa omo yade. Car wiring. Sisi a obi to car the mount. Se fire adwuma. Before se car na be sisi car na mount. Na sika akosha kanum na nyesika ketwa. Enti no aban no enti asema ye. Na also onjo so ma na yesu yentimi ntum ontum. Na yesu yentimi nya bi. Emfa hwe ye le ne ma. Sisi a dan wiring. Ye be handan. Ye ma ko school. Bibia wiring. Na da bia ye de ya do ba fo ye tie bi sidim. Na se ye de ye nko yanim da na. Enti ye ne aban no enya adwen e wo de wo ye no ho ye nyina ye o man ye dia ye pese o man ko nanim they say watu fuwe 2 times encha me ye short class encha kwa basa atum bio end
of this month obesa increase for na dey be drivers ye 0 sa and you can say etimi banesa I don't know who increase kaka no adjust kakra na ye so etimi akoyanim now every month be increase for no na ye ka say increase a lot of friend now o si dabi na si ye ne tie ma musu ho cha na kire ye dwuma no person mu guna na ase dey o mo kan kire ye
sisia ye nyina ye Ghana for enim say o man ni mo ayedin But what about the commuters? More passengers, no? Because you're drivers because you move people from one point to the other. They are also feeling the heat. And please excuse us that with the tree, it is Ghana month after all, so indulge.
Mommy, Niao Kano, Omusa. So you see, I'm saying, in Kisifu now, affected Bibia. And the best solution is that my to me and your own hand say, what you Kisifu no, now I could see also. Why you kisi the headache? Eddie Amomo Kakakra. Send a bit of Mofoka now, Monsonia day, and Chiriomo. Was me and Metiano, Mr. Ocasa, me, and my jam, Jumoya major, Trotro Juma, me, and call your company Juma, me to me. Because I know Juma my day, me, Monsieur. And so we increase for now. I say, we increase fairness to the day. Eddie May, not passing us now more free a can, my engineer's canon. I answered on my quote Juma, send a bit of man to be your canon. We increase on market on day. At the moment, one day, your whole hair.
There have been times that omo reduce C4 prices. And ya petition mo say mo reduce mo transport fares, lorry fares. Mo anye. Inti
yeah, sasa mo kan ana AS say. Oh, ya reduce fuel no ntino. Mo nte so. Ana mabuza say, makwa check say oil omate so. Spare parts omate so. You see, you do no enye fuel no nko o. Now the oil require 1 liter oil no is 55 per 1 liter. So you know, so you fuel so now see NTF so and then when you fair to young drivers no. Some people say yes so no yenye adwuma no na mo so munya kan kwa adwuma fair enough you better sir. But you know do you feel mo so because you say mo no you too mo pay mu. But the problem is government no cars no fuel never too no what your workers no so why you fine et o mbe fo ka no o complaining baba na ye kun wo ba na ye kun et ya mo kasa ya tefu aso nti no mo nti fa so ane de anya de ba ya adwuma because abuso ka ko ha o mo nti so even government ankasa they feeling say ya go say Ghana de ankasa no ko chekere ono ma board den chen.
But 30% is it not a bit much? Yeah, the practical spare parts and I can say fill tanker. How much does it cost to fill your tank?
Mommy, me say me use small car Toyota his. Say me ka say me fill here. Me spending about almost 1,000. And you see abana sa too much see ano. Me fill here.
Bare 1,000 cedis. Now spare parts akosura ebi a tie na wo sesa. What tie? The most expensive I think you buy a tie is 200-250 Ghana cedis, right?
Mommy, Debbie, and then your taxi no. Toyota Vit, mo no mo tie be at 200-300. But Obano Sprinter Toyota is say home use no say 700. Open so onya brand new now, almost 1,500 to 2,000.
How did you arrive at the 30%? And I'm better material, mock up spare parts, lubricants, fuel. But 30%, no more consider say, is it too high for the citizens, the passengers, the commuters?
30% no crazy. Some community is because what in can increase in the first one. You have to try to see there be, and I see a second one about, the second one about. That's what you have to do 30% now. I think it's normal. There's no need to back catch CBS one. As a passing your back at CBS, Suntino, and see a satisfaction, about 15 and 10%. And yet, me, you must have money.
If you crano, Lolo Fena, yet tomorrow. And say, be a more passing a phone Kuana, a fetimo. Yeah, Doba for yes, you have a car. Yes, you have a car. That be me pack me car, me took one, me go for car. Yes, for car. It is a Siano, I channel. What I say? It is a Mimigiscana, a Saco baby for that's a quack baby for. And I can't for so bread. Spare parts of motor yes kakitwa. Okay, say, Nasa Kauna and Sissima. Now, Dobin, now I saw a shit. No, come on to no, you know, ma.
Roadworthy is a mutumu. I am say, yes, roadworthy. Say, yeah, you know, your people who are police cheating. But road Nankasa, you use no air. Road, no, the word now. That buffer that shows a roadworthy certificate. No. Yet you pay no police are cheating. But meanwhile, road Nankasa no source no. And you're worthy. We see
the state of the more increment. No,
there's a road na as I say, Tyson no man say, oh, so road in okay. Boy, joint and say, tie and shit. But meanwhile, road didn't know tie. Boy, joint.
Increment in fuel prices and taxes on spare parts and all that. But the government is saying you've not had any conversation. Last
so when you be smarter, now we do one check when say I'm radio station TV station plano. What young was some can and so can you not come and check it? But now no it means that there be a change. I bet you are changing that's your price. And what is it announced say or tell you about 2 for muda. Omonya. Now what I 2 one can't say no. By but 2 years lot of family say you know chance. You don't tell for what.
As I maybe say. Cecilia, you don't have approval. Money, go ahead to increase that 30%.
Approval because about that. I'm going to two letters VAT. No, this is for about to say. Man, one on by a way. I was saying, one chance saying, yes, so you know the
day.
Mommy, yeah, a cancer drivers. Yes, sir, GPRT from penny 4. You see, your bread pie, and soto. A former side of the and you see, as a money can say, not someone we are penny for no. Some with Jemu Maya, no money, no mamma, and that's a connoisseur. No, I have any drivers. No, nice GDI or GPRT Muno. No, I conform because any drivers, only person pay will be a walk Geo. And tomorrow, now we are so Bobby. Now, pension when you be the idea. Eddie, now, some anytime you won't increase for us, so we are saying penny for now. Mutai Chima, Jumama Jumania Deno. So, most of me and Mamma, my anacquest drivers, as soon as I saw Ghana. And so my driver say demonstrations here. I buy money papa na beti yakwa jumana. And you munya na waka. Now if you come munya up na waka na, full na ya increasing no ntino. Obi papa can the cause of for trotro. And see yan penny for na timi anya bibi wo ho amaye. Na nya ye ho ahehan ya. Yan nyina be ha ye nyina wo Ghana hanum sei. Enti e be sa GPRT for penny for say. Omo mra mo maye. Na ne aban ne ka no. Omo ntimi to na mo bi wo ho. Na 30% no. Ntimi nya adwuma. Na driver say ho nya dey. So just to be clear, 30% way, it is just the Concerned Drivers Association and the Transport Operators Union. GPRT you can Omo nyina ka ho. Omo nyina ka ho. See ano enjichemu ayedai abem. Enti I say adwene so nya baako. Ebi wa aban na fa, ebi so drivers afa. Eni kwa say baako sa. Because adwuma na nyina ye. Mu mpani fo no mu nyina so mu.
Sesi ano GPRT for ena omo gina eka se lolo fe ne yantuma na unions na aka no obi ade ya adwuma ajatum enti obi timi friti prakopɛ ensan GPRT ho na onko ye bibi se we ye concern yiti no me so me yotum lolo fe this is GPRT for any concern for no atranse ni ye kan say ministries for na atranse ama anti ase ye adwuma nsan na timi ye adwuma ama ye adoba for no.
That's what I'm saying. Santia say no aba Money ministry ni GPRT we din komo ma monya sa agreement ni say 30% na mo implement it.
So yeah adoba for anything ye ntina mpanifo no wosoro no ma say ka mo ne ayi for no etrase na ntia say ye adwuma ma ye adoba for na ye de ye adwuma because see ano ye adoba for ye bre e ba ne sa de a adoba for bebre ye betimi ya agada na ya fa ye ho adwen and the demonstration right,
so they are threatening to demonstrate.
And that's right there from the center of town, the Obra Sport, Sweetie Abachi interacting there with some of those drivers. It is clear. They are saying, if you add everything up, we're bleeding. We need something to be done. And it was interesting, that call on the leadership of the GPRTUs to stand for them. So I'll come to Samuel Amwa as I take your final comments. Your people are saying you must stand for them and there must be an increment from the prices of fuel to the prices of other oils. They need engine oil, among other things, to the prices of spare parts and everything. They've been talking about those. And I also heard David make mention of the fact that it will happen, but not now. So, Samuel Amwa, your final words. Is this eventually going to happen, the increment? Is it going to happen? And what more should we know?
Yes, surely the increment is going to happen because all the concerns about the drivers are right. We are all, transport operators. Myself, I don't drive a commercial bus myself, but I have vehicles that work for me. And we are also feeling the pain of, buying the spare parts. We are also feeling the fuel prices going high. And then all their concerns are 100% right. That is why I said that earlier on, we wrote, a proposal to the transport ministry, waiting for them to call us. So hopefully, I believe from this week to next week, there is going to be a roundtable meeting for us to agree on the percentage that we have to come out with. So all that we say is that yes, it's not like we are not working for the drivers. We are not feeling the pain of the drivers. We are all feeling it, but there are formalities, there are procedures that we use before coming out with an increment. It shouldn't be like one side will come with an increment, then it will bring confusion and chaos on our roads and in our vehicles. So all that we are telling the drivers is that yes, everything has gone high when we talk about transport operations. But then they should exercise a little patience while we are also, waiting for the transport ministry. If we are waiting for them and they are not calling, hopefully we'll approach them and our proposal on their table will make sure that it will work. Either it's going to be the 30% increment or less or more. By the close of our meeting, we'll come out for all of them to know. Then we go ahead with our increment.
So not on the 7th day of March, but it will happen. How soon?
Yes,
will it still be within March?
Let me emphasize that. I want to use this opportunity to tell the whole Ghanaians and drivers as well that it has not been agreed that 7th of this month, that is March 7th, there is going to be an increment of 30%. No, it has not been agreed.
Yes, but I just want confirmation. Are you pushing for an increment this month? Are you expecting to see an increment within the month?
Seriously, even we started way back in January. That is why I say that January 24th, there was supposed to be an increment of which the transport ministry has to hold on to use the normal procedure before we come out with an increment. So the increment is still pending. Hopefully the increment will come, but not this 7th March.
But do you want it in March? Do you want it this month?
Yes, we want it this month.
All right, thank you.
When we went to the meeting, the fuel has not even gone up to this 14.49, 13.49. No, it has gone up again. So hopefully we are waiting. This month there has to be an increment.
This month there has to be an increment. Thank you, Mr. Amwa, for joining the conversation. I'll wrap with you, David Aguado. Are you also optimistic? Are you calling for an increment this month specifically? What will be your final words?
Yes, for the increment. If it happens, even today, I'll be very happy. This month, we will increase transport fare. For that one, I'm assuring Ghanaians. You see, we are all facing the pain that you see at our Bradford. You see the measures and how the drivers analyze the whole situation. It is the same with it. They say, but we are trying hard. It is the ministry. I keep on saying this. You see, the ministry should be up and doing. There shouldn't be any pressure from anywhere before they will do something. Let us all quick, and put things in order. But rather, if they are waiting, it will rather cause them. Because we are in a political year. They must know that we are in political year. And things must be done at the right time. That's all our advice I have for the ministry.
Well, thank you very much for joining the conversation. David Aguado is with the Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana. Samuel Amwa is Deputy PRO at the GPRTU. Now, stay with us. When we return, we're going to be engaging our guest on the economic ramifications of the LGBTQI+ bill, popularly known as the anti-gay bill. Now, it's been passed by Parliament. It remains to be seen whether Mr. President will sign off on it. He's been getting advice. The finance ministry has come out to say, no, don't go ahead, because if you do, we stand to lose some $3.8 billion. But why this? Should this even be weaponized? And should we stand for what we see to be our values? But on the other end, how about other people's values and other people's rights and the international community? We're going to have that holistic conversation looking at the angles, but focusing on the economic ramifications of same. We'll be right back on the AM Show. So engaging us on that conversation, we have the Dean of the UCC's School of Business, Professor John Gachi, as we explore the economic implications of turning the screw as far as this LGBTQI bill is concerned. Prof, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Right. So, first off, the bill has been passed. It's been years in the making. What do you make of this bill now that it has been passed in its current form? What's your understanding of the basics of this bill?
Well, my understanding is that to a large extent, majority of Ghanaians are very sensitive to LGBT issue. They are very sensitive to the protection of the families. They are very sensitive to what is taught to their children in school and what values the children gather as they grow up. That is the essence of the bill. And as a result of that, many attempts have been made to ensure that the process does not continue. But I believe the 275 parliamentarians representing their constituents have actually shown that there is a unanimous agreement to pass the bill. Opportunity to engage with the parliamentarians with this kind of statement that they put up in the public during the stages in Parliament.
Hello, Prof. It appears we're having
where the bill was considered, but I'm not sure they have not. Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead. We were losing you briefly, but go ahead. I can hear you now. Well, we'll try to work on that connection. Sometimes these things are out of your hands, but at least his initial reflections pointing to the value systems in Ghana. Prof, we have you back now. Prof, you can go ahead if you can hear me. We have you back. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So, I must say that engagement with the and is based on law. It's not based on extraneous conditions. When the IMF deal was signed, there's no indication that there is a condition regarding LGBT. In the same way, when the World Bank loans were being assessed, the only condition that we knew of was Parliament to consider those loans and pass them. And I believe Parliament has done that. So to come at this hour indicating that if we go ahead to sign the bill into law, then all those money will elude us. It does not reflect the terms of the agreement that we signed with the IMF and the World Bank. And what the Ministry of Finance is doing is rather serving as a lobby center against the will of the people. I think we already know that the AG and the president indicated one way or the other that the bill will not be signed long ago. We are only finding financial reasons why the president should not sign the bill. That decision, we know of that, and the fear, we know of that long time ago. What the Ministry of Finance is doing is just to put, or if you like, to blackmail Ghanaians into thinking that if we do not support the president to refuse to sign this bill, then the economy is going to suffer hugely. and then all of us will suffer. But I believe the Minister of Finance is misleading all of us. That is not the proper position. I believe you should also find time to engage Professor Eto'o-Ehene, who interjected on a program that I was yesterday and indicated that the Human Rights Council has passed a resolution indicating that LGBTQ matters should not be used to deny countries of development finance and financial resources that they legitimately enter into with these bodies. So why from the Ministry of Finance? So I think that we are not reflecting our work in line with the reflection and the sensitivity of Ghanaians. The Ghanaians are saying that over 80% or 90% or so say they don't want this value system to be introduced or to be allowed to fester in our community. And at the same time, there is a need to protect those people who are in that bracket. And I believe Section 17 of the bill has some protection for them. If that protection is not enough, it's a matter of continuous engagement, but it's not a matter of flexing a muscle that you will not sign the bill. A president must live to the tenet of democracy, where the majority speak and that leads the way. When majority decide today that a president win election, he will take it gladly. So why is it that when majority say that we don't want this thing, the president will not take it? And we are using financial reasons. And some of the things are laughable. For example, the GRA will have to intensify revenue mobilization so that we can reach debt to GDP of 17 to 18%. This is what we know already. 2022, 2023, and then 2024. All these things are in our budget. So I don't know why the intensification of revenue mobilization will have to be linked to LGBT issues. So I think that is my comment on it. Ghanaians cannot be, blackmailed to support the president's desire. And I believe
I think when you say the president's desire, the president has also said that wherever Ghanaians go on this matter is where he will stand. So I don't know, what desire are you referring to?
Well, I think that the president is not consistent. That is the point I'm making. His Attorney General indicated clearly that that bill would not be signed. The president indicated some time ago that bill would not be signed. And when you look at the atmosphere in the country,
I don't recall such an instance where he says it will not be signed, though.
Okay, fine. So that looked in one direction. In fact, that was the reason why some time ago, about 5 months ago, there was a huge discussion, perhaps including your station, where this matter came up. There was various discussion. Penka was involved. Professor Zan was involved. Many people were discussing whether it was right for the president to say he would not sign it or not. So that's where I'm coming from. But the point is that this matter is very sensitive. The president will be leaving office at the end of this year. We need to know the reflection of other flag bearers in the country so that we can gauge whether the country is on one side in the issue of LGBT or the country is divided in dealing with LGBT issue. And that must happen now for us to see the direction we are going.
Okay. Now, there's this bit, before I bring in my other guest, there's this bit as well in terms of the bill not even reaching the president's desk. The bill has not even got to Mr. President, from what the Daily Graphic reports. In fact, he says, in response to the international community, he says, I want to assure you that no such backsliding, he's referring to human rights, the rule of law, no such backsliding will be contemplated or occasioned. that is by the bill. I think it will serve little purpose to go at this stage into the details of the origin of this proposed law, which is yet to reach my desk. That's what he said. So it's not even got to Mr. President's desk. But let's look at this. Contemplating the consequences. You say the finance ministry is turning into a lobbying center against the will of the people. Do you feel then that the finance ministry is being used in some way to feel the pulse of the people or to justify, if that happens, the president not signing the bill? Is that what you think? Professor Agachi?
Well, that's my thinking, because you see, we've traveled through a long process. So these fears are supposed to be laid before Parliament to indicate that this is what we are thinking. If we are not careful, this will happen. But for us to wait up to this point and then release this thing to put fear in Ghanaians, to think that when we don't follow the direction of not signing, then something catastrophic will happen to us. I believe that is unacceptable. That is not in itself the right thing to be done.
Let me bring in Professor Isaac Bwedi, Dean, Faculty of Accounting and Finance at the University for Professional Studies, Accra. Professor Bwedi, good morning to you.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
Of course, Professor Bwedi. Right. Professor Bwedi joins us via the phone. Let's start with the initial bit. What is your positioning on this bill, which now is to get to Mr. President, because he says it's not hit his desk yet, but is to get to him? What is your stance on the bill, in essence?
Yeah, on personal level, I support the passage of the bill. And I'll be pleased if today or tomorrow the president gives the assent to the bill. Now, as a country, because we don't live in an island, we operate, we function with other countries and institutions. So there's a need for us to be careful in terms of our pronouncement, in terms of the way we communicate. That is my advice. On the 28th of February, the Parliament of Ghana passed the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values. Initially was a passage. To pass the bill. Now the discussion has moved from the passage to sign or not to sign. It is a fluid situation. And we have been told by the Ministry of Finance yesterday, by the press release, cataloging about 7 important issues that will happen if the bill the president assent to the bill.
And since you brought it up, Professor Bwedi, let me just bring up some of those to break them down so everyone can know. In assessing the bill, the finance ministry put together a paper on the economic impact of the bill, and it said Ghana would lose $600 million budgetary support, $250 million for the Financial Stability Fund, that it would negatively impact Ghana's foreign exchange reserves. They also see the expected $300 million financing from the First Ghana Resilient Recovery Development Policy Operational Budget Support, which is currently pending parliamentary approval, might not or may not be disbursed by the bank, the World Bank. According to the ministry, ongoing negotiations on the second Ghana Resilient Recovery Development Policy Operation for budgetary support amounting to $300 million may be suspended. But these are all ifs. But you share your thoughts on them, and then we'll go through them and find out the reality on the ground.
Before, let me come to the realities on the ground. Before the passage, the general mood of every Ghanaian, the various surveys that have been conducted indicated that majority of Ghanaians, our background, Muslim, Christian, traditional, we don't support the general. Now, because we have...
We don't support what? I think you have to clarify, because it's a bit vague.
I mean, the activity of this community, that was the general thing. But we as a country, we are aware. Now, because if the passage will have impact on economic-related issues, for instance, we're talking about impact on the budget. 2024 projected revenue supposed to be about 176.4 billion, as against expenditure of 224 billion or so. All the time, we have operated with a deficit budget, even with the support from IMF. So now the narrative, if the president assents to the bill or the passage, fine, we are going to have a lot of economic implications. That is true. What do we do? I'm sure that will be the discussions now, but not to be threatened by the international community to accept what they practice in their country.
Okay.
We have a plan. So I'm sure the focus should be, what should we do? In an event where we say that, yeah, we're fine, what will be the consequences? And what do we do? I'm sure that is where the discussion will focus on. And maybe we can come with a solution after other submissions.
But what do you think? It would appear then, like some suggest, that these international institutions, which in themselves claim to be all-encompassing, all-embracing, are weaponizing the LGBTQ conversation against any countries saying they have, and by the way, sovereign countries saying they want to go a certain way. Now, there are many other countries that have gone down this road. Would you say then, Prof, before I go back to Professor Gachi, that this is being weaponized economically?
I didn't hear the last one.
So the positioning then that we now hear of, and I will go to the example of Uganda, for example, the likes of Google, Microsoft had, expressed their concerns when the bill was brought before the president, Yoweri Museveni, and he went ahead and signed it. And there have been some consequences on the back of that. My question, is LGBT being weaponized against countries that have laws or are proposing laws against it?
I can also turn the question the other way. Which other countries have also developed LGBT finance or support? Dubai developed with oil money. We can give a plethora of several countries that have developed without a support from these communities. Of course, we will not say that we want to do things that will anger the international community. No. But it's important also to state our position, and it's very clear. Our late president,
Professor Atta Mills?
Yes, was bold enough to state the position of our country. Look, there are times we can down the consequence and have a broader consultation on how to resolve issues in our own country. Budget is just expenditure and revenue. If I know that all the time I exceed my revenue in terms of my expenditure, what should I do? Just to trim or cut my expenditure on things that are not ready, and rather find a way and increase my revenue stream. What can we do as a country in a phase where the IMF and other countries will deny us of some funds? What should we do? That is where it calls for broader consultation. We don't hate the people involved in the act, but we hate the act. That should be our slogan. That should be what we should profit.
So you're saying we don't hate the people involved in the act, but we hate the act. That's what you're saying.
Yes. And because we are in an election year, that is why they are using that as a weapon for other political parties to feed into this. Tomorrow, if you wake up and NDC they come up to say, well, we will support. And MPP will say we don't support. I think we should take it out of our election discussion, because these are things that will have future consequences for our generation to come. Because all the funds that we see from international community, they don't come to us for free. We pay interest. Go to Colombo. The center. We use the same. It's still part of our expenditure. So all the funds that we receive from them invariably are used to kill the same people. But I'm saying that we should not stand and annoy these international organizations. But it's important to state our position clear that as a country, we don't support this. However, if we choose to trade with us, we will do.
All right. Let me bring in Professor Gachi. So, Prof, you would note that, and interestingly, it was March 2023 that Uganda was considering this bill. It went before President Yoweri Museveni. March 2024, it is Ghana's turn, and it appears the trend seems to be the same. But in March 2023, in Uganda's case, the Open for Business Coalition said the legislation which criminalizes identifying as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer would curb investment flows and deter tourists. Now, our finance ministry is saying at the end of its paper, it says, quote, while no direct conditionality in the IMF ECF program relating to the passage of the bill has been identified, the principles of the current IMF ECF program are built on predictable financing from development partners, financing assurances that is, including the World Bank-funded Ghana Resilience Recovery Development Policy operations. The same World Bank, in the case of Uganda, came out to say that you go this way and we may not be able to execute some of our projects with you and dole out some of the money we are supposed to dole out. Though, technically, that's not what their policy, their mission statement says. What do you think this means in reality, Professor Gachi?
Finance Ministry should be doing that if there is any statement from the World Bank and the rest, what the Finance Ministry should be doing is to put in the terms of the contract of the loan before the World Bank, and not to take something which is at the fringes, which is not part of the contract of the loans, as a weapon to deter the sensitivity of Ghanaians.
But Professor Gachi, human rights issues bordering on human dignity and the rest, they are a without which not. They are not fused into some of these contracts, but they are embedded, so to speak, because of international law, right?
Why are we dealing with the World Bank? We are dealing with the World Bank based on a contract. It's as simple as that. If their interest is to the effect that they don't like certain issue regarding LGBT, those things can be discussed. And I keep saying that the protection of the interest and of this group of people is also very important. But that does not mean that a structure that is put in place to keep the value system of Ghanaians intact should not be respected. And the Finance Ministry enters into all these contracts based on law. In fact, there are international conventions that also encourages the World Bank, IMF, etc., not to use LGBT issues as a weapon against countries. For example, saying that we will not provide funding when those countries actually meet the threshold requirement to receive funding from the World Bank. So I think that should be a forum to discuss this in a humane manner, not forcefully or not to use it as a weapon against nations. That's the point I'm making.
So that is the point you are making. But do you feel that the conditions precedent or what our bill states is apt? So I'm looking for, there are 3 and 5 year terms for those involved in this in different ways, whether promotion or actual involvement. Let me get to the details of that. If you look at the Ugandan example, it states, for example, that there'll be the death penalty for those who commit so-called aggravated homosexuality, defined as same-sex relations with people under the age of 18, or when the perpetrator is HIV positive, among other categorizations. When you come to Ghana's own bill, it states that there will be a 3-year jail term for engaging in LGBTQI+ activities and a 5-year jail term for promoting LGBTQI+ activities. Let's narrow on that just a bit. Do you feel that is apt, though it is a watered-down version of what Uganda has? Do you feel this is apt? Could we have had a more humane approach to this? For example, Afenyo Markin thinks the sentences could have been non-custodial. What's your thinking on that?
Well, I do not want to express views on this matter so much, but the point I am making is that the people of Ghana have decided to go in a particular direction. And that direction is not strange in other countries. So that is the direction of the country. And that's what we are speaking to. So as to whether there should be custodian sentences or not custodian sentences, that one I'll leave it to the lawmakers. But the bill reflects largely about 90% of the interests of Ghanaians. And also, it's required under international law that we also find a way of protecting those who are into LGBTQ issues. That is the point. But the point should not be made that the bill is not necessary to be signed. That means we are fighting against the sensitivity and the interest of the majority of Ghanaians.
I'll put this question to both of you, starting with you, Professor Gachi. One, do you feel the Bretton Woods institutions, World Bank, IMF, among others, are being hypocritical? Do you feel they are foisting their opinions or their desires on us? And if you do, how do we navigate these economic waters? We have the case of Ignatius Kutu Echampo. Can we be self-sufficient? The president has spoken about Ghana Beyond Aid. What do you think? Are they being hypocritical? And if we want to go ahead, how do we navigate those turbulent, choppy financial waters? All right. I see Professor Gachi's connection is static. Prof, did you get the question?
Yes, I get a question.
All right, please go ahead then.
Can I go? Okay. Well, this hypocrisy have been discussed since our...
All right, Professor Gachi, I'll come back to you. Professor Abwedi, please, you can take that one before we wrap up, if you have thoughts on saying.
Yeah, can you reframe the question? You said you were,
are the Bretton Woods institutions being hypocritical by adopting this stance? And if we decide to go ahead, how do we navigate these economic waters?
Well, every organization will have their modus operandi, their interest and the way they function. It's difficult to say yes or no. But just to keep the discussions well, objectives are often set by every organization. And if that would be an undertone of what they seek to provide, that's a different discussion. But let us not forget that objectives are often the premise of the one to provide the service and all that. In none of the conditions for signing the trade agreement, I've never seen this in any of these organizations in terms of the agreement. There's a new thing that I need to be told. How do we navigate through this? I would have loved this bill not passed at this stage when we happen to go into an election year. I would have preferred maybe next year, because that is where all the political parties are going to feed on. And I've been telling colleagues and friends that the success of any political party now, in terms of the election, will depend on two things: past the economic realities or challenges or the solution, the choice of running it, and then this issue of LGBT. Who supports it? Which party would support it at this stage? Now, how do we navigate through this? I'm sure we should use any procedural means available, probably not to delay, to delay the bill, to allow external negotiation to go through, and then we sign. We should also not, for short better words, get this international organization angry by words. We should be careful with the choice of words that we use, and so maintain our position as a country, as a sovereign nation. That should be my approach. The courts are there. Individuals have the right to demonstrate, do whatever they want to do, so maintain the values of our citizens.
Professor Gachi?
Well, the international community have been working with countries for a very long time, and that relationship is necessary and has to continue. But some reflections of the international community does not match with the value system of countries, especially in Africa. And there should be a way for these countries and these international bodies to find a way of understanding the value system in these countries, especially in Africa countries. And that is the way we can work together. They need us, we need them. That is the situation. Well, I would not say that they are hypocritical at this point. All I would say is that some of their thinking does not reflect our society, and that we are minded to protect our societies. And that is the difference, and they need to get to that point to accept what we are doing. But it's...
Hello, Prof. All right. It appears today the connection to Prof has really been bad. Before I take your final comments, and this will be the final comment I'll take, just to let everyone know that yesterday in Parliament, it was a bit tricky because when this whole issue about the Finance Ministry coming out with this paper was brought to bear, our correspondent, Kweku Asante, also reveals in some interactions, without wanting to be made public or come on air, members of Parliament on the majority side and the minority side were incensed by that bit. And we can actually check out what the report was on that before we conclude.
The expectation is that the clerk to Parliament, Cyril Kwabena-Otin-Nsia, will send that anti-gay bill passed by Parliament last week to the desk of the President this week. Finance Ministry, as we now know, have written to the President asking him not to sign because of some significant economic impact it will have on the country. The minority MPs are furious about the situation. They say Ghana cannot sell its sovereignty on the altar of a few dollars that institutions like the World Bank and the IMF bring in. Listen to Hassan Suhini, an MP for Sagnerigu, Alhaji Ebi Efuseni, making a strong point for why they believe that this is not a good basis to ask the president not to sign.
Without any iota of doubt, it's an insult to the good people of this country to say that Ghana as a sovereign country, as a sovereign independent country, must subsume the rights, interests, and aspirations of people to the altar of the interests and beliefs and values of external bodies like the IMF, World Bank, and WHO. So the interest of the World Bank, IMF, is more than that of Ghanaians.
It's a tragedy. It's very disappointing that the finance ministry, headed by a minister a while ago who spoke highly about the pride of our country, all of a sudden will be taking this position.
Alhaji ABF Husseini is also calling on the Ghanaian public to pour out on the streets to demand that President Akufo-Addo sign this bill into law.
Rise up and make sure that this particular, and I'm telling you that the streets must be flooded. Everybody must be prepared on this matter. To come onto the streets, thousands and millions of people must be prepared to flood the streets on this matter to protect our independence and sovereignty.
Former President John Dramani Mahama has been categorical that he supports this bill. He has also said that he does not accept LGBTQ activities in the country. The presidential candidate for the New Patriotic Party, however, has not said anything on this publicly. Member of Parliament for Bole Bambo, Yusuf Suleimana, is urging Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to come out publicly to express his view on this matter.
The flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to speak on this matter. The former president, John Dramani Mahama, and the candidate for the NDC has spoken, and he has made his position clear. Are you saying that when he comes to power, he will need foreign aid? He's aware of the implications, but he has juxtaposed the harm that this will cause us vis-a-vis the income or the wealth that we are going to get from foreign aid.
The president will then have 7 days to signify to Parliament whether or not he intends to sign it, and if he does not intend to sign it, within 14 days to write a memorandum to the Speaker of Parliament explaining which specific clauses in the law he does not wish to sign and proffering his own amendments. The House can then, by 2/3 majority, veto the president and force him to sign. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And that's the final bit. If the president doesn't sign it, Parliament still has some leeway to maneuver. If they have 2/3 majority, they can actually make it a law. And that is where this whole majority-minority conundrum comes in. But I'll take your final words, gentlemen, starting with you, Professor Bwedi.
Thank you very much. Let's remember our eternal words of our Professor Atomel, our late president. Keep your gear money. These words should kill us, in the campaign. So I think well, it's fine, but then we should also be careful and refer also to recommendations by the Minister of Finance. They didn't only give us their the implications, economic implications of the signing of the bill, but rather they also gave us solutions. In fact, they indicated that African Development Bank will not have any issue whether we sign or we don't sign. They also indicated that we should have an effective engagement with other conservative countries, including Arab countries and China. And I'm sure this also will help trigger resources to fill in the potential financing gap to be created. We gave a solution. So we can go by the solution. And my final word, before the president even signs, I wish we engage the international community, let them know our position. We also need to have a stakeholder consultation in event where funds are delayed or funds are not given from the international community. How do we raise our revenue And how do we reduce our expenditure, which is projected to be 224 billion? What can we do? Through tax? Increase the tax, widen the tax base? What do we do? The bracket. What do we do? These are consultations that we need. And then we should be very careful in terms of our communication, on radio, on TV, and the rest. If you don't support, let's state our position clear, but we should not find ourselves, fueling international community anger and all that. No, it won't help. And we should not so use this for politics. It won't help us.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Isaac Bwedi, Dean, Faculty of Accounting and Finance at the UPSA. I'll wrap with Professor Gachi. You have the final take. What are your final words? All right. We've lost Prof one more time. And that was Professor Gachi as well, Dean of the UCC School of Business, Professor John Gachi. Stay with us. There's still a lot more to come right here on the AM show. Of course, we're still going to be exploring that situation to do with the vetting of appointees of Akufo-Addo. And we'll also bring you up to speed on the Joy News Impact Makers Awards 2024. We'll be back. Welcome back on the AM show. Let's talk now about the Joy News Impact Makers Awards. Last year we had the maiden installment, and it reminds me of that story of that person who wanted to change the world. Then he realized there was too much. Then he wanted to change his continent. He realized there was too much. He wanted to change his country down to his village. And then he realized that where he should have started from was from himself. And that's what these impact makers have been doing. They have volunteered and they are doing great things. Last year, we celebrated some of them, the Joy News Impact Makers Awards, and this year we continue. But to lead that discussion, we have Emefa Tiamoeli. She's our project lead in-house for that. And then we also have in the studio the 2023 awardee for education in the person of Yaira Portia Kulu. She is into education and volunteerism. Both of them join us in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin.
MFI, I get to see every day in a different setting. So whenever I have to talk to her like this, it becomes a little curious. Good to have you join the conversation. I'll start with you, MFI. Last year, maiden event, spectacular. And it also brought to bear those people doing great things that very few people know about. Tell us about the journey from last year.
It's been very exciting. It's been very, very engaging. And the applause till now has been very loud. We get people calling in, sending messages every now and then, wanting to know how they can be part. And that is where we are saying that, fortunately, we have open entries for people to, we have open nominations for people to put in their entries. And so if you watch the channel, the means to do that is impact.makersawards@myjoyonline.com.
Can you say that again? Slow down a bit.
Impact.makersawards@myjoyonline.com.
Right.
And so immediately, if you know of someone in your community, wherever the person is, and you think the person is making an impact in your life as well as the community, we're asking that you quickly nominate the person so that, who knows, if he or she is lucky, he might be part of the final 10 that will be recognized in May this year.
Interesting stuff. And last year we had quite a number of them as well getting awards. There was an ultimate winner,
yes,
but there were a number of awardees,
yes,
including Yaira.
Yes. So last year we awarded 10 individuals, and then we also celebrated. We gave a lifetime award to Father Campbell,
right,
for his enormous impact in everything he does. We thought that he had done so. In fact, the nominations were coming in, so many of them for he in particular. And we thought that putting him in the same category as the others wouldn't be fair. And so we needed to do a special lifetime achievement award for him. And he became the 11th of, in addition to the 10 that were recognized in 2023. It's been an exciting journey so far.
Yara, let me come to you. Now, you are an awardee. You're doing some fantastic work in education and volunteerism. Tell us about what you do and what it meant for you to be a part of this.
Okay, good morning. I would say that when it comes to UL Impact Generation, as everybody knows, UL Impact Generation is a group of volunteers who have come together to impact their society. Right. So we go out there to volunteer our time to inspire the young ones in the communities, especially in the deprived communities, because we believe that if we are only in the urban areas and nothing is being done in the rural communities, and we are still spreading the information of education, trying to promote everybody, it will still be in one particular sector. So we believe that if we extend that voluntary time to those communities, it's going to help in a bigger way. So we have the UL volunteers who go to the rural communities to teach and train. They spend time with the communities and all that. So we're very glad that Joy Impact acknowledged what we're doing. And to be honest with you, since we got the award, it has been an amazing...
It has opened doors for you,
Exactly. And we are still hoping to get more awards from Joy Impact.
I see.
Because it brought us to light, and we had very good feedbacks from people, and it keep encouraging the volunteers.
Yes. So would you say, apart from the doors it's opening for you, has this award, being a part of the scheme, has it enabled you to impact even more? Are you making even more of an impact on the back of being an Impact Makers Awards awardee?
Yes, I would say yes, because when UL started, we've been in existence for, this year actually, we've been in existence for 6 years. Okay. So you realize that taking the award actually boosted our name, and people got to find out what we're doing out there. Because at the end of the day, the volunteers were always getting the time to do whatever they were doing, but there was no acknowledgement. But with the award that was given, we realized that the volunteers were motivated, they were encouraged to keep doing what they were doing. So I think they really did well, and we are really grateful to Joy Impact Makers.
Quickly, before I come back to MFA, how many people are you working with, the volunteers? How many of them?
Okay, so we started with 20 volunteers, but we are now 1,500 volunteers.
20 to 1,500?
Yes, please, nationwide.
As of last year when you won the award, about how many were you?
Oh, we were still in our thousands, actually.
Right.
Yes,
right. So it's just getting bigger and bigger.
Bigger and bigger. And we are still opening doors for more volunteers to come on board, so we'll be able to spread our hands and do more.
Okay. I'll go to MFA, but when I come back to you, I would also like to find out which community. Are you spread across the country?
Yes.
I'll come back to you on that. MFA, so here we are. It's another season that is beckoning. What are the plans? What are we looking at? What are the timelines? What can we expect? Bigger, better?
Okay.
More awards? What are we looking at?
Obviously, we are open to celebrate more people. And I like Yara when she said that the award actually opened doors for them, and people got to know more about what they were doing. Right. And so what it meant was that the possibility of them getting more support or to be able to expand on what they were doing was very high. And that's always been the idea behind the Joy News Impact Makers. Sometimes there are several awards in these countries, and often if you are into something, you are wondering as to whether anyone at all is interested, or you are making
someone seeing what I'm doing.
How legitimate is whatever impact I'm making. Joy News Impact Makers Awards has come to give people legitimacy for whatever contribution they are having to do in their own community. I can tell you, I will not end. For the 10 awardees that were awarded last year, everyone has a story to tell. And it's been one positive story, one after the other. People have gotten the opportunity to register foundations as a result of the awards, Impact Makers Awards. Others have had to got funding to be able to train more people because of what they do, so they will be able to replicate the impact they were doing at their level. This gentleman who is into beekeeping, Mensa Oku, last year he got funding to train about 200 young people to learn how to do beekeeping. Right. As we speak, he's gotten a third funding to train another set of young people to go into agriculture. So that should tell, and every day he will tell, it's all because of the Joy News Impact Makers Awards. There was this gentleman in Sunyain. He last 2 months got an opportunity, $1,000 opportunity to be able, $1,000, yes, to be able to attend to the needy in his community. Whatever their needs were, he was able to provide for them, whether you needed a startup, something to support them. The story is long. The point is that the Joy News, yes, maybe you may be expecting money, but to what extent would that money be able to make the impact? But if you're able to impact others in another way. So this award is to give you the platform. Right. Beyond the money, is to introduce
and in fact, the platform
corporate Ghana
is often even in value more than money.
Absolutely.
Because like Yara is saying, the doors it has opened for her. Some of these, maybe they are assisting schools, they want desks, or they are helping in this way. You may not get the money, but people will give you directly.
Exactly. You remember this gentleman in the popular MC who was jailed for raping over 28 girls. The prosecution and jail was made possible by a Joy News Impact Maker awardee. He tells me he got the impetus, he got the courage to be able to pursue the case, because after the awards, people got to know him, and so they gave him intel, and that gave him the courage to pursue the case. Wow. And so this is the kind of impact, and it didn't just end there. The guy was actually jailed, and now he's even looking for support for some of the victims, you know. So this is what the platform offers you. So wherever you are, and we are still receiving entries. This year, we are looking at May because of our programming for the year to be able to award impact makers. So as soon as possible, entries will close. We are closing the entries in the middle of March. So it is impact.makersawards@myjoyonline.com. impact.makersawards@myjoyonline.com, and we encourage as many people as possible to put in the entry. You may never know. You will be the one to change the life of the person or the community. The thing, it could be education, it could be health, it could be technology, it could be ICT. There's this gentleman in Nima, Amadou. He Achievers Ghana. As we speak, because of Impact Makers, he has gotten nomination to be part of the Global Change Makers Award. Global Change Makers Award. Yes, that is how far, that is how big.
So from the Joy News or Joy Impact Makers Award.
Now he's gone global.
You always have to ride on the back of something, right? Sometimes it takes that first step, that first introduction, and that is what we're giving. The platform is there. We give you the platform, and that's Amadou that's right Amadou. There.
Yes, that's Amadou.
In Mamobi.
Mamobi, yes.
So he provides quality education to girls in deprived communities, empowering them to create positive change. And you see, there are so many of such people dotted across the country.
Exactly.
You know, we don't get to know
all they
them.
need is the support. Exactly. All they need is the exposure. All they need is just someone to hold their hand and say, come on, what you're doing is good. Don't give up. Keep at it. And that's it. And that is what the Joy News Impact Makers Awards is doing to such people.
Interesting dynamics. I'll come back to you for a final word. But are you spread across, dotted across the country? And what will be your final words? What can we expect from you on the back of your win? I see you are still basking in the glory of the win.
I know, right? Yes, please. I must say, UL volunteers have been amazing. We are spread across Ghana, especially in the universities. So we are in the University of Ghana, the KNUST, and then we are in Koforidua Technical. These are the active chapters that we have. We are still looking out for more volunteers who are coming on board from other schools, and we are hoping to do a campus store to spread the word on education and volunteerism among the youth. And then we also want to talk about how we get more volunteers who, especially in the health sector, where we volunteer and then go out there to do medical screening. We want to open up for more medical practitioners who volunteer their time and skills to go out there to do the medical screening. So I think URL has been on it so far, and then we are hoping that as we are open and we are out there, we'll get more sponsors to come on board. I think Joy Impact are doing amazing work. I always get people sending me videos. Hey, yeah, we saw you on Joy News. So the publicity is out there. We are still asking that whosoever wants to be part of us, we appreciate and they are welcome, especially with the sponsorship, to spread the words of volunteerism out there. We'll also say that when it comes to URL Impact this year, we have a few programs outlined. We have some markets clean-up exercise that we'll be coming up with. And then we have our annual tour where we visit a community in the rural community to do the teaching as usual for a month. So that's what we have for this year.
I have a message coming through. Just a sec. Mamiesi Dakwa Grant says, good job, Yaya. You are doing amazing things. I wanted to do that, lest I forget.
Yes, I just wanted to add to, I think Yaya is doing very great. And their activities are centered in hard to reach communities. Very, very, very.
Tell us about mention some of the communities.
Yeah, we visited Kentampo, Tamale. We visited Seshiri also. Okay. We even recently, when the unfortunate incident happened in Mefe, we
the dam spillage.
Yes, please. We had volunteers going out there in the community to help in terms of the classrooms that were being destroyed. The volunteers were there for a month to teach. Yes, please, under the trees. And we are, at least, the Member of Parliament has been an amazing person who have supported URL Impact and are good. I think we have a lot of people.
Is it Okujato Ablakwa?
Yes, please. Okujato Ablakwa, when we supported him for what happened in his constituency. And then we have our amazing board who have not disappointed us. They have been so fantastic, always directing us on what to do. Because at this point, we have parents who are worried, giving their kids for volunteerism for a month. That's a lot. So they actually need extra encouragement and assurance, thank you, for them to be sure that their children are safe. And I must say they have been fantastic. And we are really grateful to the parents of the volunteers.
Interesting dynamics. MFA, final words.
Yes, these people really need a lot of support, and we hope to be able to add to the number. And if you look at what they do right from scratch, you observe that most of them started with their personal income.
Remember the analogy I gave at the start?
Okay.
The person wanted to change the world and finally came and realized that the change began with himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is it. And my point is, if with their own resource at that very small level, they've been able to make this amount of impact, you can imagine how much more impact they can make if they get the necessary support. So people like Yayura, who would go to these hard-reached communities that nobody would ever thought of going there. You have weak classroom blocks. They don't have learning and teaching materials. They don't have teachers, but you have these youngsters who volunteer to go and stay in communities they've never been, they don't know anything about. They live their luxury life back in Accra here, and they say, let me just go and live a village life for a month. That's a lot of sacrifice. And so our responsibility, you and me, Benjamin Akapu, is to give them the platform and hope that whoever is watching, whoever is doing something which is related to their field, they'll be able to give them the necessary support so they can make more impact.
Well, thank you very much. Are there any final words from you, Yaya, as we go?
Yes. My final words is to appreciate my volunteers, Rural Impact volunteers. They've been amazing for the past 6 years. It would have not been possible without them. I really appreciate all of them. And I want to say a very big thank you to the management team. Sometimes when I'm not around and Rural is being doing the magic, it's like everybody thinks it's Yaira, but it's not me. It's always to the management team and to our board of directors. We want to say kudos to them. They should keep on doing what they are doing. And to our patrons, Madam Sedi, who was our past patron, and our current patron, Ajiamuna Isahaku. She has been amazing and we really appreciate them, and to the board and to our lovely sponsors. I must say thank you so much. Please, this year we need more support from you, and then we can't wait to embark on our next trip this year, God willing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies, for joining the conversation. We had 2023 awardee for education, Yaira, joining the conversation. We also had in the studio, and Yaira, by the way, is into education and volunteerism, URAIL, and that is Yaira Posha Klu, an awardee for education. And we also had Emefa Atiamwa Eli, as she's lead for that project, Impact Makers Awards. Ladies, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.
Right. Well, let's quickly get into our next conversation. You know, well, come the 6th of March, we're heading to the Eastern region. That's where it's taking place for the 67th Independence Day activities. We have joining the conversation the Eastern Regional Minister. A very good morning to you, Mr. Echampong, Seth Echampong.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well. I am well. I hope you are well too.
I'm well too.
All right. We'd just like to find out from the start, what does it mean to you as Eastern Regional Minister and those in the region to be hosting the 67th Independence Day Awards?
It makes me such a proud Ghanaian at best, when I have been privileged by the mercies in the dictates of our Constitution, when Mr. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was asked me to serve in this region in his stead. And the Independence Day of our great nation, Ghana, is being observed and commemorated in the Eastern region. What else can I wish for? Because this is a national day. This is the best of our nation. And for us, we receive it, we accept it with all gladness.
In terms of preparation, what can you tell us about the preparation? Today happens to be the 5th day. Tomorrow is the 6th day of March, Independence Day. How prepared are you for these celebrations?
We've been rehearsing for the past 2 weeks. Yesterday was our final rehearsal day with all the contingents on parade. And that aside, the grounds where we're going to host this event is also ready. Management of traffic, because there is certainly the anticipation and some expectation of congestion. So the Ghana Police Motor Traffic Department, Transport and Traffic Department, is also assisting us manage our routes effectively, so we can have some efficiency in movement of our people. This is the national day for our great republic, and each and every citizen must enjoy. The interesting part of this year's celebration is our theme, which goes, our democracy, our pride. And for me, like I said in my introduction, I am a proud Ghanaian. I feel proud because I am a beneficiary of the democracy we're working with and we're living in. And the dispensation so has also made Ghana a beacon. Reasons are that we've transcended administration from one political divide to the other. What else would I wish for myself as a Ghanaian? than to say that indeed Ghana is growing and we're making progress as a people. So for us in the region, it has also brought us a new birth of life, which is our economy. The economy is seeing a tremendous transformation. Those in the hospitality industry, those selling around, all value chains in terms of anything that will help us receive our guests and even our nationals is something that is good and is very commendable. And we are grateful to His Excellency the President and the administration for choosing the Eastern region to host this 57th independence anniversary.
And I was about to get into a bit more of that. Economically, how do you feel this will benefit Koforidua, not just tomorrow, but moving forward?
Indeed, this is projecting Koforidua as a destination. Hitherto, most people might have heard of Koforidua, but with the coming into town and the celebration, it's going to bring more people who will come to Koforidua. And your good self are going to help promote Koforidua because you are marketing us and people are going to see how beautiful Koforidua is, this serene environment. And so all that adds up to the progress, the independence celebration is brought to Koforidua.
Now, the sun you cannot control, but in recent years there have been incidents where people have suffered from heat. I wouldn't say heat stroke, but people have suffered the heat in some of these events. School children, even those in the services. What arrangements are in place in terms of healthcare and in terms of maybe protecting people from the sweltering heat that characterizes our climate?
So in preparing, we had an organogram. So there is a committee in charge of health. And the committee in charge of health is the one who is taking care of that. We have made preparations for them. They have their food. And they take care, while we're going through rehearsal, it was also a great rehearsal for them. And we, like I said, for the past week, that's what we've been doing. So they are up to the task. And it is led by the Ghana Health Service professionals, medical professionals, medical doctors, and the like. And so we're very confident that on the day, we'll be able to manage any matter that comes before them.
So we can expect a spectacular event-free, that is no negatives, hopefully, tomorrow.
That's our prayer. That's our prayer. Reasons are that, in fact, there are enactments to help us maintain public safety and stability in the community. Because we're expecting the diplomatic corps to be here. We are hosting the President of La Côte d'Ivoire, His Excellency Alassane Ouattara, the guest of honor to our President. And mind you, the first gentleman and the second gentleman and their spouses are all going to be in attendance. This is a national day, so this is apolitical. You have the Speaker who has been invited. You have the Chief Justice who has been invited. And so it's the nation, former presidents have been invited. Our clergy, our professionals, everybody's been invited. Our representatives in our legislature, ministers of state, everybody within the space, our traditional leaders. Eastern region is proud to have 11 ceremonies, and all these ceremonies have been invited to witness this day together with His Excellency the President. And what else do? We just have to make sure we work well and protect our region and our state.
Just to conclude, before you give me your concluding remarks, I spoke about sunshine and the heat. You referred me to that committee, but it would be interesting as well to know what preparations have been put in place for the rains, because we've been told a few things by the GMET, and anything could happen. I know you may check the weather and all of that, but there could always be a surprise. Hopefully there will be arrangements for that, right?
Yes, but I can say that, unfortunately, our field we're going to use is not a dome that we can cover up, because that is not how the infrastructure.
Because I hear it's at the youth center, right?
It's a youth resource center.
So it's all enclosed.
It's not fully enclosed. Yes, it is fenced, but it is not fully enclosed from the aerial. So
Okay.
it is not covered from the aerial. And so there are open spaces, but we've introduced certain trusses, which will also offer some level of shade within the arena. So that is how we're going to proceed.
So if the rains come, you'll have things covered.
Second,
So if the rains come, you'll have things covered.
we are monitoring the weather. We are going to make sure that the timing favor us in respect of the event, so we don't have any form of matters that will degenerate. Our whole focus is to ensure that we have a very free day with the good weather, and then we observe our National Day.
All right. Any final words?
I just want to thank every person who have been involved in this preparation so far and where we've got into. And again, I want to ask all citizens of Eastern Region to remain very high and in good spirit, because something good has come to the region. And to our nation, Ghana, it is worth celebrating our National Day. Let us all put our hands to the wheel and roll it. Ghana is the best place for all of us to be. And I encourage our country's people to observe the day as such.
Mr. Champon, thank you very much for engaging us this morning, and we wish you the very best as you host.
The pleasure is all mine.
That is Seth Champon. He is Eastern Regional Minister. He joined the conversation. Stay with us. There's still a lot more action coming your way before we wrap on the AM show. Well, as we cap off the conversation, we have joining us COMAS, the College of Medicine and Allied Sciences, and Doctor of Medicine Eli Kwesi Atikwe, who is Registrar of the College, joins us for a conversation. Doc, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with COMAS. Tell us a bit about it, and why should people even be thinking about this College of Medicine and Allied Sciences?
Yes, College of Medicine and Allied Sciences apparently is a private medical institution.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and so I should say that it's the third private medical institution in Ghana. And as the name goes, it's a College of Medicine and Allied Sciences. We offer medicine using the graduate entry medical program. What it means is that you need to be a graduate of a science background before you are able to enter into the College of Medicine and Allied Sciences.
Okay.
And you use 4.5 years to have completed a program, as against the 6 years that people with the SS or the WASI qualification do. So in ours, you enter as a graduate of science background, and you use 4.5 years to be able to complete your program.
So you could have graduated from anything in the sciences.
Any science,
and
program. Then you can enter into into our medical school, and it takes you 4.5 years to be able to graduate.
So you basically told us about the graduate entry medical program.
That is
right.
Right. Yeah.
What are the other requirements, or that's simply?
Basically, you need to have but you should have a minimum of a second-class lower division. Okay. Of a science, any science, bachelor science program to be able. But your SSC should also be of science background. You should have also passed your sciences at the SS level.
So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking about the possibility of employment with the backlog that we have. What is the guarantee of employment after graduating from COMAS?
I think that doctors, as we speak now, we have about 13,000 doctors in Ghana with a population of 31 million. So if you do the mathematics, you would have talked about one doctor to 2,500 plus. And the acceptable value is a doctor to 1,000.
Right.
And what is the turnout of all the medical schools and those who have been trained from outside? We're less than 1,500. So if you look at it, how many more doctors you need to be able to make up the backlog, or to be able to
meet the deficit?
Meet the deficit. It will take us with the current turnout over 10 years to be able to make the WHO acceptable values, because our population is increasing. The doctors are the production rate, right? It's not as high as we would have wished. So under normal circumstances, looking at what we have now, we should be able to have over 10, 20 or whatever medical school to be able to meet the deficit. Yeah.
And so you are here to support that cause?
We are here to support that.
Are there any institutions, or is there any institution you are affiliated to?
Yes.
And how acceptable is your certificate? Because then it will determine the quality, the value of your certificate. You can go ahead. Just go ahead.
Now, you ask whether or not we are affiliated to any institution. We are affiliated to University of Cape Coast.
Okay.
That is our mentoring institution. But again, having done that, there's also the need for you to really do your clinical training, and therefore you are looking at areas that you'll be, or institutions that you'll be having your training. We have several institutions that we want to do our training. One of them, or I'll mention a few of them.
Right.
University of, please, let me just.
Sure, go ahead. So he's going to take a bit of refreshment just so he can continue with the discussion. Yes, you were making a point.
University of Ghana Medical Center is one of them, where a lot of our basic sciences and others will be done. We are looking at the actual clinical training will be done at the Eastern Regional Hospital, Koforidua.
Okay.
We have the Tetekwashi Memorial Hospital, Mampong, Akwapim. We have Shai Usudoku Hospital at Dodowa. We have the Ghana East Hospital. I mean, these are hospitals that are really out of Accra. But when you come to Accra, then we are looking at Greater Accra Regional Hospital, popularly known as Ridge Hospital, and then 37 Military Hospital. Now, we are also trying to get into, because we are a private institution, we want to really get some of our people trained in the private institutions. One of them is the Accra Medical Center. We have sent information to have an MOU with the Maritime Hospital. We have also sent out to have an MOU with the Bank Hospital. So we are.
So it is obvious you have quite a list of. But very quickly,
hospital,
before we go, when does the academic year begin?
We're starting on Monday.
This Monday?
Yes, the 11th. Okay. Our students are reporting on Monday, the 11th. Right. They will do their registration. And Tuesday, we start the orientation right to Friday. And Monday, the 18th, we are starting our academic year.
Thank you so much, and we wish you the very best.
When I was at the other end, I was told I didn't really mention our website.
Right.
It's www.comas.edu.gh.
And the COMAS is COMAS.
COMAS.
All right. Thank you very much. That is Doctor of Medicine Eli Kwesi Atikwe. He's registrar of the College of Medicine and Allied Sciences. They joined us for a conversation, and of course, they are delivering quality medical education. And that's how we cap off the conversation this morning. But stay with us for Joy News Desk up next. And for us, Sweetie Abochi and yours truly will connect with you again same time tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.